Triple 6, 5, 4, atomic penetration, rapid fire through your skull. Shot it on, we're taking it back to the days of trying to lose control. Swerving in a blaze of fire, racing through my bones. Oh shit, I'm feeling it. Tachyon, hell yeah, fuck yeah, I feel like killing it. Tachyon, alright, that's not what it's like to experience. Tachyon, out of the blue, wind through the bag, door coming through like fuck, what was that? I don't know, but it made me feel so heated. How we creeping out, showing you jazz. Shit from below, give a shit if you know, cause even if you did, bet you keep coming back. Back for more, need a man, yo, addicted to the heat, we make beats cash. Digital bleed to death, these track. Epileptic sees every head we crack. Like EPMD snapping necks as we tap energy from everything on and off the map. Oh shit, I'm feeling it. Jack y'all. Hell yeah, fuck yeah, I feel like killing it. Jack y'all. Alright, that's not what it's like to experience. Jack y'all. Jack y'all. Shot down your throat like a keg of beer. Choke on the smoke, we in and exhale till the whole chamber is clear. That's not so fucking weird. Try to stay in this atmosphere, but they can't cause it's way too shit. How to make a hater disappear. Take shit where it ain't never been. Fuck what you thought, could not comprehend this shit. If I fist to your brain with a 10. Nah, hey, 7 triple snarl. Hey, 7 triple snarl. Hey, 7 triple snarl. Hey, 7 triple 6 5 4 John. Criminal level quick lightning storm. Get out of the way or get up torn. Ain't a picture big enough to fit what we dig up from the core. Holiday, forgot ever was militant march of this war. Jack y'all, taking them down. All we see is blood. Jack y'all, turning them out. Had a trick, gotta freak that buzz. Shit, I'm feeling it. Jack y'all, hell yeah, fuck yeah, I feel like killing it. Jack y'all, and alright, that's not what it's like to experience. Jack y'all. Bullet clip forcing you to drip on the moon and fire we spray. Cryonic, garnet bullets, hollow dip with toxic waste. So here's the deal, if you don't feel it, don't wanna know we're near my zone. That shit is dead, can't nobody get with that shit, gets dialed tone. Jack y'all, bitch, slapping pussy, clots and clothes. Jack y'all, setting off, you the bombs inside your dome. Give it up, bitch, you know this is it, get with this again, left cause it's on. Jack y'all, Jack y'all, 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 triple 6 5 4 tons. Bullet clip forcing you to drip on the moon and fire we spray. Cryonic, garnet bullets, hollow dip with toxic waste. So here's the deal, if you don't feel it, don't wanna know we're near my zone. That shit is dead, can't nobody get with that shit, gets dialed tone. Jack y'all, bitch, slapping pussy, clots and clones. Jack y'all, setting off, you the bombs inside your dome. Give it up, bitch, you know this is it, get with this again, left cause it's on. Jack y'all, Jack y'all.
Hey, slip, slide, tryna provide for me. For me. For me. Find me somewhere out in London, you know that's the hideaway. I need some head and some moral support from you right away. Since I've been making donations to you like United Way, you know I do. Stories you told me about him, I can see that it's night and day. You told me the truth. Walking from here to my bedroom and feel like it's miles away. There's too many roads. And I'm still hard body, I don't feel nobody. And I'm wheels, I'm riding on my friendships. Solid, I get big deposits on my whips, exotic. Revving the engine, well, city dependent. I gotta finish it, I want opinions, she wanted things, yeah. She want a ring or some sort of arrangement, yeah. Something that's dangerous, I wanna change it, I wanna claim it, yeah. I want it painted, yeah. She quick to say no cause she know she a diamond, yeah. She getting quiet, yeah. She on the diet, she want a massage, yeah. I'm tryna get intimate, yeah. Bank account never diminishing, yeah. Niggas are changing their images, yeah. Niggas act hard but they innocent, yeah. Hop in the tank and move militant, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Find me somewhere out in London, you know that's the hideaway. I need some head and some moral support from you right away. Since I've been making donations to you like United Way, you know I do. Stories you told me about him, I can see that it's night and day. You told me the truth. Walking from here to my bedroom and feel like it's miles away. There's too many roads. And I'm still hard body, I don't feel nobody. And I'm wheels, I'm riding on my friendships. Solid, I get big deposits on my whips, exotic. Trunk on the engine, I'm on a mission. The Bronco 250, I'm out your division. I got them excited, know it's been a little minute. I left her delighted, made her love off a crown. These suckers despite it, the touch is the Midas. She say fuck me and calm, I just do it like Lover but Nike. Ordered a jet for you and your friends. Trophy you roundin' that big by the Benz. Got a little bit that came up from nothing. We shopping in London, they doing it big. Landed private, but we out in public. I know we the topic for you and your kids. Life Monopoly gon' blow, not an option. If they could've stopped it, they would've been dead. They would've been dead. She could be the wig. Don't play with my hands, you test my emotions. Don't be testing my phone every day, I'ma leave it on red. Don't digging and stroking. My new bitch pussy wet like an ocean, I need a new spread. That solid one chosen. Don't gon' wanna stay focused, I can't let them put me on edge.
They put me on edge. I just bust on my wrist and this rose go in and say edge. I just put pointers on feds. I just counted to me and all cash and got hit from the feds. Yeah, I just told them if he played, then we stopping the growth of they dreads. I just had to put the pyramid push that I'm never gon' drive them to shed. Build a panoramic ghost. We got foes and deuces toast. On the big dog of my coast. Like romantics with the scopes. Ain't telling this bitch my ghost. Had a living at the Montrose. I'm a peep but a player not pole. Yeah, I been thinking about selling my soul. Take me out the country and drop me in apartments. You won't see me cry. I just put macaroni cheese in my pocket and it came with the size. I just put 20 mil inside an extra. I don't give a fuck about your life. You had a buzz, but that shit was too little. I promise you never was hot.
Okay. What up? Let's see. Welcome. Music's too hard? Awesome. Quack. Fucking quack. Buddy. Pal. Oh man, are they blaming Hassan for the influence? Are they blaming Destiny? I've been hearing different things, different times. What? About this shooting, man. There is one particular tweet Destiny has made that, you know, I'm not sure. This is probably the wisest tweet to make. Freedom of speech and all, but in terms of pragmatics, do we want to be making this tweet? Hold on. You guys can't see my screen yet. Hold on. Let me pull it up in a second. 1 second. Oh my god, dude. Let me turn off the deafen thing. There we go. Breaking, the WHCD shooter has reportedly been identified as a Destiny fan. Not sure if this is entirely true. I haven't looked through this, so I don't want to just say this is the case without looking through this myself a little bit. But, okay. It's worth noting that after the shooting, Destiny tweeted urging people to stop trying and actually do it. Stop trying to kill our president. And Destiny quote tweets and says, I have never agreed with a statement more in my entire life. Okay, man. Turns out the alleged WHCD shooter was not only completely unaffiliated from Hassan Piker, he actually hated Hassan and reposted hate tweets on his Blue Sky account. So I guess this is him, Cold Force, Blue Sky Social. Hi, I'm a random California guy who posts about American politics, support for Ukraine, and observations of small creatures. Let's see. Reposted by Cold Force. I would not simply vote for the literal biblical devil from hell, but I guess I'm built different. And this is a quote tweet from Natalie Wynn here, ContraPoints, saying, Counterpoint, if the Prince of Darkness arises from a fiery portal at the Iowa caucus and declares his opposition to Donald Trump, I will ride to battle with the host of hell. With this usurp the chef post here that refers to Hassan here. When asked if he'd vote for Gavin Newsom or J.D. Vance for president, Hassan says he'd vote third party. So there's one example at least. Reposted by Cold Force. I've spent a lot of time in countries where graft and grifting are the norm, and I assure you it is worth a truly immense cost to prevent that from taking hold in our society. You do not want to live in that kind of society. Quote tweeting here a tweet saying, "I think we should simply run on prosecuting the rich for their crimes instead of creating a low-trust society that will sow the seeds for further fascism." Referring to the rich don't play by the rules, so why should I? Why petty theft might be the new political protest. Referring to Hassan, of course, over here as well. And then another one reposted by Cold Force. "I do not listen to any streamers because streamers are dumb." Quote tweeting something saying, "PSA, if you're equating Hassan Piker with Nick Fuentes, what you're really saying is that you don't actually listen to either." This didn't stop MAGA influencers from instantly blaming Hassan without having any evidence. Let's see. Laura Loomer, Stephen L. Miller, In Wokeness, Drew Pavlo, Michael Knowles, Colin Wright, Mark Penn, Will Chamberlain. Interesting. Red flag here. Why we need the ballroom?
We have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone-proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it. They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons, but today's a little bit different because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before.
Why do these other three look terrified? Is that just me? Am I? The body language here reads as terrified.
You have to have.
We need the ballroom. Okay. Exclusive. Let's see if this is just suggesting the same things that I just read, or in terms of the Blue Sky posts or retweets or whatever. Exclusive WHCD shooters, Blue Sky post revealed, aggressively anti-Trump, JD Vance, pro-Ukraine. I guess this is him right here. In post shared with Post Millennial from a senior government official, Blue Sky account of Cole Allen reveals that he was aggressively opposed to President Donald Trump, may have believed that violence may be the answer. His account Cold Force with I emojis instead of the O's. Made many posts espousing violent feelings about Trump. The profile description reads, "I'm a random California guy." I don't know. Okay. "Choose my own battlefields, not through my blood, but with my heart. I stand on the battlefield to protect what I want." He wrote in quotes. Is that really all there is to this, or is it a bunch of ads? Okay. All right.
Extraordinary last 12, 13, 14, 15 hours in this country. One thing that I'm disturbed by as we woke up this morning is seeing folks on the internet say that this was a false flag, that we are basically all in cahoots to say that this was staged. And I think as someone who, for all of us, who was in the room, who had to jump on the ground, who had to text our family and friends and tell them that we're okay, calling our moms, like so many people in this country have done for decades, to see people say those kinds of things, it is frustrating, it's disturbing. It shows the issues that we have to try and fix in this country. And I think nothing taught us anything better than the importance of journalists being on the ground, in the room, for moments of historic significance than last night.
People would probably trust you more. Listen, I'm not saying it's a false flag. I need to learn more about all this to be able to even begin to actually have legitimate feelings that it's a false flag. But people would probably trust the media more. They would probably trust that this is not a false flag if the media had a consistency in telling the truth and, not appealing to corporatists to keep their fucking jobs and the money flowing or whatever. It's, they probably be more willing to trust that something like this is a real event, so to speak. Is it fucked up that people's immediate assumptions are going to like false flags, yeah, but like, I mean, you're reaping what you sow, I suppose.
Us all dropping to the ground, and literally like 5 seconds later, phones up and around, so that the American people get a first-hand account of what's happening in a room where the most powerful people, including the president and vice president of the United States.
Because I legitimately believe this is probably not a false flag, just based on what I've seen so far. It's just not out of the realm of possibility at all in my head. I do legitimately believe there's probably be people upset enough to go do stuff like that. It's not even surprising. Really, literally, it's not surprising at all.
I saw something that, the false flag, this was staged, is a big thing in MAGA world, but I'm hearing that on my social media pages from people on the left also thinking that this was staged.
Because nobody trusts like Trump and his administration. So they like lie on a consistent basis. People were thinking like he was like doing a false flag with that one shooting that happened in public, the one with the almost hitting his ear, and he almost never talks about that, which is kind of sus. Not saying that it's definitely a false flag because like that alone or anything like that, but like a lot of people put together this like notion of like this might be like bullshit based off little tidbits of information, a little bit tidbits of off character ways of behavior. Like you would think Trump would refer to that incident more. You would think, but
that this was a false flag, that this was something being done on purpose. And hearing you speak, Eugene, if it's coming from the right and it's coming from the left, these conspiracy theories, it says to me that there feels to be a lack of trust in this country.
And empathy.
Well, yeah, duh.
And if people can't...
Yeah, and also empathy, like why would we empathize with people that are consistently selling us out? That'd be the other thing, is like why would we empathize? Why would we want to like... Yeah, guys, I feel so bad for you here.
At see that a room full of journalists have ran out of the room, got in front of cameras, got on their platforms telling people what happened in the room. If you cannot trust what we are telling you, I don't think that's an issue of journalism. That is an issue of American society. And so if you're watching The Weekend...
No, because this response is due to the poor, unhinged, quite frankly, misleading journalism that is happening on a constant basis that has these incentives for capital. And incentives and, contributing to sanitizing or misleading anything about the Trump administration, how they handle things. There's an understandable reason why people would have a little bit more of a lack of empathy at this point in time for even journalists, media journalists at this point, which is kind of sad at this point.
You've been watching us. You've watched us now for 4 hours. I hope you know that we are telling you, because we were in the room. We were sitting right next to each other. Jackie was right next to me, to my left.
That doesn't mean anything to anyone at this point. The lies, now I believe personally it was a real event. But that wouldn't nobody would be like, oh, I take your word for it because you were in the room at that time. Because people would go far and beyond out there to do schizo posting about how they're all in it. They're all in on it. Because once you lie enough, or once it becomes prevalent enough of spewing lie after lie after lie after lie throughout different media outlets, sanitizing, whitewashing, outright omitting stuff, towards contributing to different countries or different companies' interests or whatever, right? They're not, they don't care. They don't care to hear from you. They don't believe you.
Then Eugene was to her left. We're telling you that what happened last night was real.
I will never forget a conversation I had with my first boss in journalism, Chris Isham of CBS News. He was the first person to conduct an interview with Osama bin Laden. He had dear friends who died in the attacks on 9/11. And I remember sort of gently asking him what he thought of some of the conspiracy theories around 9/11. And I will never actually forget the look of pain in his eyes that I even broached that question. And even just having this conversation with Ashley, actually, is such a testament to why it is so important to have primary sources, people who are on the ground, to interview them, to talk with them. Everyone likes to be an armchair quarterback at the end of the day. Tons of people looking at videos wondering, oh, why was Kash Patel the last person to leave the ballroom? Did Secret Service mess up? Did they forget about him? No, actually, Ashley was sitting with him. She said his instincts were to stay, to be on the ground, play FBI director.
He was operating bravely in that.
Does anyone believe that? Does anyone believe that that's what, like, Kash Patel's fucking instincts were? It's fucking Kash Patel, dude. Okay, dude. now you guys saying shit like that, man, that makes me more sus. That makes me more sus of you guys. Okay? Yeah. Okay, dude. The most sus thing to me was having the president and VP standing right next to each other for a presser right after an assassination attempt and giant security breach. That's the other thing, is the nonchalant of, like, Trump being like, you know what? We're just gonna have to do it again. So you have two options there. Either, like, Trump is just insanely delusional and just willing to, like, try to do this kind of event for, like, again, because to be fair, there is a minimized risk after an event like that. It is true that probably an unlikely event of that happening again, but nonetheless, it's not impossible that somebody else, you don't know if this was a planned event or something, that there was more collaborators or anything like that with the shooter. So it is a little delusional and a bit of a security risk. No, a huge security risk for himself and others to try to, like, do the fucking event again. Stuff like that is just like, okay, like, this guy is, like, mad suicidal, or he just doesn't give a fuck at all. Like, pick one. Or he just all believes it's staged. Like, I mean, I kind of get why people would think I kind of get it. Like, I kind of understand. I believe it was staged when the guy walks or gets pardoned. I believe it's staged when the guy walks or gets pardoned. Yeah. They're not taking the risk seriously. No, they'd never take anything seriously. But, like, I think in this case, if they're not taking the risk seriously, it probably is because, it's just, it is possible because, like, I don't know, man. It's just sussy behavior. I don't want to be that guy who rushes to be like, yeah, it was staged, because, like, that's, like, a little strange to just. I don't think it's, like, healthy to jump to that conclusion. That being said, strange behavior. Technically, the president, VP, and Speaker of the House are never supposed to be in the same room. A lot of effort to get his ballroom, though. Yeah. Kash was piss drunk and could not get up, allegedly. Okay. I believe that.
And very quickly, there is a connection between conspiracy theorizing and political violence. Statistically significant. Harvard Kennedy School has done a bunch of studies on this, most recently December 2024, after the November 2024 election. Again, it's statistically significant. We've got a nip.
After something like the Epstein files, man, like, you can't really be surprised that people would jump to, like, conspiracy posting after, like, a lot of information from the Epstein files, like, vindicated in one way or another. A lot of different people's, like, theories on, like, deep state, like, backroom deals, behind the scenes, like, conniving and shit like that, and how, like, the government's set up and how the structure is set up. You can't blame people for, like, being, like, super duper paranoid of, like, one of the, quite frankly, too, like, the biggest, like, lie machine on the planet at this point. The biggest, like, the administration that lies probably the most and has lied the most through the entire time of being in charge. Like, I get it. Okay. Okay, so yesterday I looked over Brittany Simon's like takes on Kyle Kalinske saying the R slur and basically saying he needs to get out of the coalition because our people shouldn't really take him seriously because he's not a good person because he called Trump a fat retard and basically said that you need to strive to be a good person and even at your own sacrifice at this point to where you can never fight back against your enemies in ways that I deem as low or whatever, even in means of survival. So good people should die. Very suicidal, very, very stupid, very privileged takes here. I'm really hoping that Uninformed Leftist challenges Brittany Simon on all this, because I saw his coverage of this same conversation. He stopped it at a certain point. He didn't even get to the really stupid stuff that she was saying, like good people die young or good people are going to die a lot. And, that's basically that in so many words, that's okay. Good people are going to die. So he didn't really get to that point, but he was frustrated and he was trying, he wasn't screaming at the, not screaming, but yelling at the top of his lungs or saying as spiteful, mean things as I was, but he certainly was telling her to shut the fuck up at certain points. So I'm really hoping we get a little bit of that energy here and we really challenge Brittany Simon and embarrass her. What was the last time? What was it? Like we had Lyrics embarrassed her? Dude, she's such an embarrassing figure. Please do not baby her. Please do not. I'm begging you guys. I'm begging you. Do not baby this person. Do not sanitize this fucking loser. This sellout. Welcome all.
Already found out. They're like, wait, you're working today? I was like, don't ask. Just let's do it.
I have someone in the chat right now say Monkey D Trevi. Not
Yeah, I love
working a
it.
7. Yeah, not working a 7-day week. So grateful. Yeah, no, thank you so much. I know what it's
My
like.
pleasure.
I'm gonna start. We're not streaming yet. Is anyone live already? Or?
Oh, I thought we were streaming. Sorry, but
Oh, you're live. Awesome.
it's fine.
Yeah,
No one tunes into my stream until like 20 minutes in, and then they're all confused as to what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so we're
That's
all.
why I show up late all the time, so
Right.
people can't have time to
Yeah,
come in.
that's what I need to do.
I'm getting ready. All right, I'm connecting. My OBS is connected.
Okay.
Oh, it's 9:59. I still have to wait a minute. I technically.
I wish I had time marks because this is still live right now, but we're going to have to skip through a little bit. Get a sense of where the conversation's at. I haven't seen any of this so far. Let's try it around here.
If something that I feel like I have to talk about or something or stream about, I'll sometimes like do a stream on a Sunday, but I'll try to avoid it if I can.
Yeah,
unless it's
makes
the show.
sense.
Yeah, and I know we're gonna be like talking about Kyle Kalinske a little bit, but I got to start doing what he does more of, where he just like pops off a 15-minute video while he's in bed with his wife, like just like Kyle's bed videos where he's essentially vlogging and he's like, "Oh, did you guys see this? Trump almost got shot again."
But in fact, by the way, for whoever's joining us, welcome to a brand new episode of Better Left Unsaid. I am one of your 3 hosts, Anthony. I'm joined by James from Uninformed Leftist and Comrade Casey from the North Star Radio, and we got Brittany Simon as our esteemed guest for tonight. We're going to be hanging out, talking. We got a bunch of questions ready, a lot of topics, interesting topics to talk about, so it's going to be interesting. Thank you guys for tuning in. Jim, thank you for the $20 super chat saying balloons and fireworks and hummus for Brittany Day. Whoever sends in any super chat or any support for the channel, the super chats all are like split amongst all the hosts, so we appreciate you guys' support. And if you guys have any questions or super chats
Okay,
directed
cool.
towards
We need to
Brittany,
get filler what the first topic's going to be. I jump into the Kyle Kalinske stuff immediately, please. I'm begging you.
we're to ask them to her right before she gets off the stream. So make sure you guys get those questions in early. That way we can make sure to get them to Brittany. And yeah, Brittany, thank you so much for being here. And again, like we were saying off cam, you guys get to see it on James' stream if you're watching there. That you're sacrificing your one and only day off of the week to be here. So thank you. We very much appreciate you being here.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
And speaking of Kyle Kalinske, I guess the first thing we wanted to talk about is dark woke.
Okay. Thank you. Just jumping straight into it. Do not hold back. Do not hold back. Please. I'm begging you. Please. I don't need you. Just be aggressive. Challenge her on this. I'm begging you. Please.
Is it good or bad? That's something that you talked about on your channel. That's something that I've kind of talked about as well. And once I was, I can't remember how it was brought up, but someone was like, hey, Brittany's talked about this a lot. And then it kind of made me reflect on the whole thing and had a nice conversation with the chat. I remember about dark woke and what jokes are acceptable, what's not acceptable. sort of what's your take on dark woke people like Kyle Kalinske that maybe are trying to be edgy for the sake of like trying to combat the Republicans?
So
Sure.
are we first? Sorry to cut you off immediately. First one, I guess I cut her off. But how are we defining dark woke? I think we should start there because
defining dark woke, the lines of dark woke. I would imagine dark woke. You have an understanding of woke in and of itself is generally being progressive, fighting for progressive values. Maybe you say something over the line here or there in terms of maybe like it's closer to like dirtbag left kind of vibes and aura, right? A little bit. Or even like some people making jokes at the expense of Republicans that hit on a certain threshold that you would probably hear like some crazy like even racist make a joke about or whatever. But it hits on something personal to the Republicans, to the person that they're being vitriolic towards, where we're hitting a certain threshold of like, fuck you specifically in this specific way. And normally they probably wouldn't make this joke to an ally or something like that. But it'll touch on something in a very edgy, controversial way that maybe not everyone's a big fan of, which is understandable to a degree. But, you know, hitting on the degree that Brittany Simon does where, oh, we should disregard this person as an ally completely. This person doesn't contribute. We shouldn't collaborate with this person. Okay, now we're getting a little ridiculous, especially if it hits this threshold of like, oh, Kyle is just calling, you know, Trump a fat retard, for example. That's come on, man. Like, we have to be serious.
Casey brought it up, like, what even is dark woke? And I think a lot of people have different definitions of it. So I'm wondering, how would you define it, Brittany, when you're engaging with the idea of like, we need to be, I don't know, like more resistant against Republicans? Is it that, or is it just like people being edgier?
Okay, hold on, boys. Hold on. Does anyone know my content? You can say no.
I was watching your content yesterday. I got through a few of your videos, and
Okay. I asked because I do philosophy, so for people who don't follow me, which means the focus of my content is about the individual's relationship with existence. So like, why do you wake up every day and go to work? And then, of course, that encompasses politics because everything is political. And so there's a relationship to these things. I know your content a little bit, but I'm not an avid watcher of it, anyone but Anthony. So I'm still learning where your perspectives are from. So just like, give me a little grace in that regard. But when I think about dark woke, or I think about Kyle Kalinske, what I'm asking is from a humanity perspective, how should we show up in our communities? And if children were watching us, how would we feel about the way they received our, the sense of, well, the way...
Children are not watching Kyle Kalinske, dog. What are you talking about? Okay, if you're talking about, like, okay, it depends on the age gap. Bracketing children in terms of, like, teens, like 15 to, like, 18 or something like that, maybe. Okay, 14, all right. But, like, do you want, like, to present, like, certain moral values or whatever, certain, like, thresholds? Like, do we not think that, like, creating these jokes, these, like, borderline jokes are just a part of human nature, by the way, too? Where we're going to be a little spicy here or there. We might say something a little uncouth, a little out there. And part of, like, the fun of some of these, like, jokes, right, is that it's like, oh, that, you know, I see what you're saying. This is a little spicy, though. Like, I see the sentiment of what you're saying. And it's fun. It's inherently funny in that way. So, I get a certain threshold. I get a specific context where it's like, this is really over the line and should be said. But, like, we need to understand, like, what exactly is the problem here in terms of this person is making political content that is primarily going to be seen by adults. The rhetoric is going to be absorbed by other adults for the most part. So children, what are we talking about? What age brackets here?
That we show up in the world. So I focus on children, I focus on vulnerable communities, and I focus on, like, if a kid came upon my stream, what message...
Also, do you think certain vulnerable communities, certain trans people, certain black people, like, will not absorb that sense of humor as well? And utilize that sense of humor in terms of their own advocacy, how to present themselves, or, like, combat? When I was a teen in the Newgrounds days, everything was edgy. Yeah, I mean, it was just it's like, political content that Kyle Kalinske makes is not going to be like immediately be something that like every teen is probably going to immediately be absorbed into. I mean, obviously you'll have specific people who had those interests like a little bit more early on, but
am I setting to that child? And so that's kind of my focus. Does that kind of help ground what we're going to talk about today? Just so people understand the perspective I'm coming from. Because I think being femme presenting, I just think I come into the sphere that's mostly dudes and presenting masculine presenting people. And so I end up having the one opinion that I think isn't often represented in this sphere because men are so politically focused. I mean, they are really the bearers of war. They create all of this conflict. And I don't blame them. The patriarchy is deeply ingrained in their sense of gender. So I come with this perspective of, has this ever helped us, really? And so that's really my perspective on Kyle. Because I did, James, I think I just saw, because I was clicking on your channels to see what was up. And so I did just see that you reviewed one of my videos, but I didn't get a chance to really watch it. So I don't know what you came away with about Kyle Kalinske. But I guess we could start there. So
he came away with, like, your takes being, I think he's going to say this in a more gentler way here, as quite unbearable and missing, like, again, tone policing, missing the point of what people. First of all, it's like again, it's like human nature of like I think these jokes are a little bit fun. I'm being a little playful here, and like if I can use a little bit of these playful, edgy jokes to garner a little bit more of a, more of an audience through showing strength. People might enjoy my content and see I'm not like such a buzzkill. That's another way of putting it. It's like very buzzkillish. It's like I get to a certain extent where it's like, okay, now we need to police the language a little bit here because we're getting a little too out here. Like we're getting a little bit too free here, and then it's like being absorbed and turned into something a little bit awful here. But that like Kyle hasn't even met that threshold at all. He really hasn't, especially in his actual like YouTube content. Those vulnerable people need to grow a pair. This instance is a battle for the soul of the country. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think here's another thing. It's like infantilizing those marginalized groups and those vulnerable groups or whatever. Because they've had to deal with all this stuff for a long, long time. All of these different things. So I think while, like, of course, they might not always be happy to see some of these edgy words, and there is a fear that some of these things can be turned into something else, even if it's inadvertent, even if that's not the intent of the person making a joke. I think for most people, most of those marginalized folks, they kind of understand the context. They kind of understand because they themselves do this same thing as well. Everyone does this to some extent, or has done this to some extent. Everyone kind of internally understands, why these jokes are made, why these dark jokes, edgy jokes are made, or whatever.
So my reaction is that when I was watching like your segment about it, I thought you had kind of two takes on two different aspects of Kyle. One is kind of his like edgy shit posting on Twitter, but then one is his kind of prescription for the Democratic Party as a whole. And so I thought that we could kind of like dig into kind of the differences there, because I know that he was like talking about, you were reacting to one of his interviews where he was saying that the Democrats are like gerrymandering, right? The Democrats are gerrymandering in response to what the Republicans are gerrymandering in. And I thought that you kind of ascribed his like shit posting nature on Twitter to more Democratic resistance as a party tactic, like as a political tactic. And I think those are kind of two different distinct things. But I think that that's why I wanted to get into this conversation of dark woke, because I feel like those get conflated a lot. Like, I can see Kyle calling someone like the R word on Twitter as being conflated as saying like Democrats need to have better rhetoric to resist Trump. And it's like those two things have a lot of crossover when people just describe like resisting Republicans. But I think they're a distinct, I think they're like two different distinct things. One is the way that a content creator personally curates themselves to their audience. And I know for a fact Kyle is in kind of that like millennial edgy type of vein of content creator where he tries to appeal to more like, I wouldn't even say he tries to appeal to, but he does appeal to a lot of more like politically homeless people, but that grew up calling people like gay and R-worded and stuff like that. And I know that's like a personal appeal, but then I also think that there's a difference between him being like, we can't do the whole when they go low, we go high thing, when we're seeing that idea is not working right now. And the perfect example is like the gerrymandering battle that's going on in all of these different red states and blue states. I think the idea of like when they go low, we go high.
He's basically just like, you need to clarify your position a little bit further because you're conflating the two, and it's getting like a little bit confusing on what exactly is the critique of Kyle and what you want Kyle to actually do, and what do you think Kyle is trying to advocate for our politicians to be doing. Here's the other thing is, you're making these appeals to people that like function in certain communities where, say for example, here's an example, and they still talk this way, but like I've never gotten a sense from Deep Fat Fried, for instance, which is TJ Kirk, Paul Zigo, and Scotty or whatever. Like, you can watch Deep Fat Fried and they'll utilize harsher language than I would ever fucking dare, quite frankly. And like you can have the conversation about, you know, maybe you shouldn't use the T-slur, for example. And this is a pro-trans channel. This is a pro-trans content creators. Like, you watch enough of their content that their advocacy is very much leftist, pro-trans rights, everything like that. But they don't really shy away from specific language, specific usage of slurs. And if that's not something that you like, okay, fair enough. I understand. But like, I would say to try to suggest that there is advocacy like this is wholly worthless or doesn't contribute anything beneficial when you get down to the nitty and gritty of, you know, what they're advocating for and how they're advocating for it. If you say it's wholly worthless, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Every single person has an individualized kind of like perspective on what that line is. Now, I say I don't think you should be saying the T-slur. But if I were to go up to like any of these people, if I were to like the Discord call or any of these people and challenge them on this notion of, I think you're not really pro-trans rights or whatever because you've said the T-slur before, wouldn't that be like a ridiculous assessment? Because like every single bit of their other positions are constant advocacy that I would see from how they've talked about the issue does not give me an indicator that they are in fact anti-trans or anything like that. It's just
be applied both to being edgy online, but also using political tools to try to achieve your political goals. It can be applied to.
Oh yeah, and also the F slur and stuff like that too. Again, like people. People kind of grew up. Some people grew up in specific ways where these are like internalized in their head as specific different. They have specific different ways of utilizing this language. I don't think that makes it okay necessarily all the time to utilize it in those ways. But again, the writing off completely just seems like a little flippant, I would say.
You know, not saying like bigoted or what could be perceived as bigoted things online, but it also could be applied to like gerrymandering. Like, Democrats are technically breaking mores by doing gerrymandering right now, but they're doing it to counteract Republican gerrymandering. So I don't know. Does that make sense? I feel like I said a lot, but I don't know if I was getting my point across there.
Yeah, I think the dilemma. So now my brain is like, okay, now we're having a political conversation that isn't my field of expertise and I'm jumping into a conversation about politics, which isn't what my content's about. So now
Well, you did jump into a conversation about politics. What do you think you were doing? Because you also said everything is politics. You can't jump into this idea of like, oh, I was just being a ooh-woo philosophy girl here. No, you were like being critical of how Kyle does his advocacy. And, you know, I don't even know if you intended this, but you intermix Kyle's way of advocating as a pundit, his vocab, his way of aggressively, you know, doing tweet storms and insults on his own like YouTube content towards Republicans or you know, political adversaries. You equivocated that with this idea of like he wants all of our politicians to conduct themselves exactly the same way. So you have entered into a conversation about politics here. What are you doing here?
okay, how do I bring this back to philosophy?
Oh my god, is it gonna be a repeat of fucking the lyrics conversation? Please. Oh god. Oh my god, it's gonna be so funny.
I don't know how it moves the Democrats forward for Kyle Kalinske to spend time calling women bitch on the internet, but he does it. And so the question is like, I'm not a Democrat.
Well, I don't think you could say, wow, it's gonna push us super forward, utilizing, you know, misogynistic language or slurs or anything like that. I don't want to say that I'm personally saying that like this is going to push the needle necessarily and help your, you know, Democratic campaign or ambitions of, you know, helping your party overall. I don't want to say that necessarily, but there is like, again, like utilizing some of this more edgy language can appeal to a certain base of people that might not have been won over originally, you know? And sometimes, I'm sorry, man, some of this language, we have to understand that some of this language, however fucked up it is being utilized in such a specific way that, you know, if you're using some of these insults are kind of deserved, okay? Some of these insults are kind of deserved, okay? I'm going to be real towards these Republicans. It's kind of deserved, okay? Some of this language is fitting, okay? We got to really constrict ourselves. I would respect the stance more. Honestly, I really would respect the stance more if you would just say, I don't think you should insult Republicans or something like that. Like, because you're really constricting the usage of the language and how we combat some of these people and define these people. Because if you want to say, I don't think we should use these, maybe the language that I use, me personally, like Black Plague J, Emery, maybe I should stick to subhuman, wretch, something like that. But then that goes into another conversation. What if I'm criticizing Blair White? If I call her subhuman, then that could be treated as, oh, you're being anti-trans now, because you know, people do associate calling trans people as subhuman. It is a common thing. So what is the language barriers? What am I allowed to do in terms of insults? What am I allowed to do? You can insult people without using slurs. Yeah, you can, but like it's constricting for a lot of people. It is constricting. Yes, I can. And I would advocate that people do it without using insults if they can. Yes. But like then we're going to have a larger conversation about, okay, again, one plays without rules. The other is constricted by rules to a detriment at a certain point, losing an appeal, losing the optics and vibes wars. This is part of the reason why, you know, it was easy for the Republicans to cater to specific like vibes, that certain crowds, because they didn't like buzzkills. Nobody likes a buzzkill. I'm sorry, bro. We're doing the meme here. We're doing the meme here. You come in and like the group of people, they're having a good old time. They're shitting on the Republicans. And you're just like, actually, you know, this specific thing that you said is harmful to this group of people at this specific time.
It's so far you're
like,
a bigger...
It's like... It's like, this is the vibe, man. You're the vibe killer.
party I've ever been to.
Evening, everyone. I thought it would be very droll if we all sat down and looked at etchings. Would you like to join me, Peter?
Well, we're kind of partying here.
Go!
And then, like, I guess the response would be like, oh, yeah, well, we should be a buzzkill because you should learn and grow or whatever and change or whatever. And it's like, dude, that's... We're kind of trying to do something here, and you're kind of like interfering here and letting us kind of like kill the opposition here, metaphorically speaking. If you're already using ad hominem, you might as well go all out.
Democrat. I mean, I am literally a registered Democrat. But okay, I'm not a Democrat, and I'm not a liberal. I consider myself leftist. I'm an anti-capitalist. You know what I mean? So like, I'm not really interested in like Michelle Obama. I love her, but like also, love her as a woman, but not, you know what I mean, as a political person. So, they go high, we go high. Low.
No, you don't like. No, like stop. Language. Oh, I love Obama. I don't love him as a political person. I love him as a man. It's like, no, I don't like him as a man either, because I think he's a fucking war criminal. We're just like, we're sprinkling in this like sanitization of all these people that have like done fucking disgusting shit.
Where would they go low, we go high. I think these are all like not the point. I think these are superficial. I think it's superficial to think that we can go high when fascists are killing people. So I think we should act with dignity no matter what's happening, and there's a dignified way to fight back. Liberation is a dignified effort.
No, it's not. It's not. And no, liberation often gets fucking messy. What are you talking about?
And so the question is how do we seek liberation while not becoming as philosophically evil as the people oppressing us? I think that's more or less how I see it. Does that help? I'm trying to bring it back to my area.
No, I get the intention of not trying to be as philosophically evil. I get that intention, but like, where is the intention of saying, oh, the usage of the slur makes you just as evil as like the Republicans? It's like, no, our policies are meaningfully different. No, our advocacy is towards human rights. No, it actually isn't. It's not even the same. It's not even close.
But
no, I think that makes sense. And one thing that you said one thing that you said that I saw yesterday, that I thought was really interesting, and I was hoping you could expand more upon, is the idea of like how people get their minds changed. Because I thought you had a lot to say there, and specifically like you were reacting to a commenter and they were saying like, oh, Hassan changed my mind, and you're like, okay, but like there are a number of different factors, and I think that's also something, because Kyle does present himself as I don't know, different. I'll just say different than like what you would imagine the stereotypical kind of woke skull, like blue-haired liberal would be.
Amenable, someone you would have a beer with, relaxed, reasonable, chill, like somebody like that would just like, if you're doing something wrong, at least initially, depending on what you're doing exactly, the way he would correct you is through like a very, relaxed, straightforward, like, hey man, that's probably not the thing to do, bro. And here's why. He'll give you a reasonable explanation. But then when he has to get aggressive on some real shit, on some like debate shit or something like that, he'll cut through, he'll be cutthroat. He'll be to the point. He has like his bullet points memorized, policies memorized. Well, he's on track. He knows what like we're fighting for. He knows why we're fighting for. Like,
and I think that because he presents himself in that way, he does offer an on-ramp to a lot of people that have been kind of inoculated, or they've been like preloaded to despise stereotypical liberals. He offers them an on-ramp into like leftist commentary. So how do you?
The problem with slurs is that they're too mean to the person being targeted. Like, there's nothing too mean that you can say to Trump. There's nothing too mean you can say to Kristi Noem. There's nothing too mean that you can say to JD Vance. There's nothing too mean that you could say to fucking Quartering. I'm sorry, some of these people, it's like we've long, like the average Republican voter that's misinformed or whatever, like it would depend on the context of who you're talking to and why you're talking to them, and if they're like reasonably uninformed or something like that to some degree. Like, there's a time and place for these specific edgy jokes or borderline cruelty is what I would say. But like, you're meeting cruelty with cruelty. Like, cruelty is being delivered upon you. Like, it would be kind of understandable to be like, I'm gonna be a little cruel back. Like, okay,
see someone like Kyle as a role in kind of the whole ecosystem of getting people to get their minds changed? Or like what is your opinion on how people get their minds changed about just like political and also just like life viewpoints in general?
I think about it kind of by looking at the past when all of those people voted for Obama, which I'm sure some of us were a part of that. Some of them ended up, there you go. Some of them voted for Trump eventually. So I'm not interested in temporarily changing someone's mind to win one election. I want to change someone's mind to change the future of the world. If that's what we're pursuing, is longevity and a real embodiment of values. And so philosophy for me allows people to really look in a mirror and say, what do I really believe? Because am I going to be racist or homophobic or ableist when my rent gets too high? Because that's really what's happening, right? Trump is purposely, in my opinion, making people's lives so miserable that they are becoming more bigoted, which is a good marketing tactic.
Well, here's the other problem is you're putting the blame just on the Trump administration, which is true. They're like escalating things in a lot of different ways, but the blame was within the system in and of itself, the oligarch system, the corporatist system in and of itself. Again, maybe she understands this to some degree. She should understand this as a leftist, but it's like it's working in such a specific way that I don't think you can reduce it down to like, you know, Trump being, you know, just the bad guy here, and you know, everything's going to be well and good when you meet the endless, ruthless dictatorship that has ICE, you know, rounding up people and putting them in fucking camps, and just meet it with this tempered, like, you know, like, I think you should be a little bit nicer and not call Trump a fat retard. I think you should be a little bit nicer and, you know, in your advocacy, and just play by the rules and stuff like that at this point. When it comes to means of survival, like I don't think you understand. Like, this is kind of like you have to meet the moment here, and like the people that would change their minds because of a vibe switch. It is reasonable to have this like feeling of like, okay, we can't just change people's minds on vibes alone. And I don't disagree with this, but I think there's only so much you can do in terms of like, if somebody has changed their mind just based on vibes, I think that gets you in the door a little bit. You have to place individual responsibility on the people themselves, and if they're going to continue on that same path that you led them down with your vibes, you know, with how you've introduced them into your perspective, your worldview. Obama can only do so much in terms of like switching people's vibes to being like, you know what, normally I'm a Republican, but like, you know, I kind of like this Obama guy. I kind of rock with him in terms of his policies. Like, there's only so much Zoran Mundani can do, or any other person can do, really, in terms of like presenting themselves as nice, amenable, charismatic, succinct, to the point, willing to listen. You know, there's only so much that you can do at that point. Whether or not they're going to change their mind. Every person's kind of different on whether or not they're going to go from a Bernie bro to a fucking, you know, Trumpist MAGA cultist. Yeah. Yeah, you have to place some realistic responsibility on voters. Not all the responsibility on voters, obviously, especially with how the system functions in and of itself. But like, yeah, voters are, you know, you just place some responsibility on voters. If they only move, if Joe Rogan only moves off of vibes, it's like, okay, I think functionally, if a voter only moves off of vibes, you can just reasonably come to the conclusion of like, you don't actually think for yourself. You're kind of like cattle. When people say not to use slurs, they aren't saying be nicer. I don't disagree. But like, it depends on the slurs. It depends on the usage of the slurs. If you're saying like, oh, I think you should be not using the R slur here, it's just like, respectfully, I disagree. Like, I don't think it's worthy to comment on the severity of like, I think using this slur is inappropriate towards Trump. Like, you have to lock in for the moment. Because if like we're gonna sit here and be like, oh, this person doesn't deserve to be like a speaker here in this coalition because they've used this like generally ableist slur that, you know, we still haven't even come to this firm conclusion mainstream wise that this is in fact over the line and inappropriate, like then no, you're not a serious person. Like no one literally thinks that the N word or T word is in the same bracket as R word. Actually, no one actually thinks that. I don't think any, like even the people who are saying that it should be on that, like they don't actually think that. They don't actually think that. They don't really actually think that. No one actually thinks that. They think it's like over the line. They think it's unacceptable, right? But they don't actually think it's as bad as the N word or the T word. And no one thinks that. The only reason it isn't considered as bad is because people with intellectual disabilities are less able to speak for themselves. No, because this slur can be utilized. It's been utilized against me. I don't know what you're talking about. You like I'm autistic myself. I am neurodivergent myself. Do you think I haven't been called the R slur? And that I can't speak up for myself and how I feel about, you know, again, everyone's going to feel differently about it, clearly. But, like, I've been called this. Everyone's one time or shape or form. And I legitimately can tell you from my own feelings on how I felt, how this word has been utilized against me, that it's been equivalent to the same feeling as being called slow or stupid or idiotic or anything like that. They're insults. They don't necessarily always feel good all the time. They just don't. So that's what I'm saying is like I think the conclusion is okay, you know, what's the reasonability of being like, I think Kyle Kalinske is not someone who should be advocating in our interest because he's used the R slur against Trump. It's a little bit of a ridiculous notion is what I'm saying.
To trigger people into bigotry and getting mad and resentful at other people for existing, especially people with minority statuses. So my brain...
Okay. Really? You don't have an intellectual disability? Okay, buddy. I'm giving you the timeout for that. 10 minutes. Get out of here. Come back later, all right?
Brain goes, well, what good is your pretend inclusion if when rent gets high, you come for me? You know? Right. So I think that's the problem. So Kyle Kalinske might win.
Let me say something more offensive than the R slur here. I'm going to deny your experience as an autistic person. Okay, dude.
Temporary change minds into voting Democrat.
Good job, bro.
One election, and that's good. Or maybe he's the straw that broke the camel's back to really bring someone to full embodiment of like leftist values.
Fuck you, buddy. He named himself Black Plague. Sounds disabled to me. Oh my god.
So I think we should take away from the ego. I think like I don't change my viewers' minds. I don't change their life. They change their own life by using the tools that they.
When I had my fucking like way back when I was a fucking child when we had our like evaluation, I had pervasive developmental disorder. You fucking idiot. Like I'm sorry, dude, like. It's just so ridiculous. It's like, oh, you don't actually have an intellectual disability. Okay, dude.
For me, or the wisdom that they might hear on occasion when I'm actually wise once in a while, you know? But I'm
comes in all shapes and sizes. There's different variations. If you were to ask me, am I as disabled as, you know, some people that they literally need caretakers and shit like that? No, I'm not. Like, but there's different variations of, like, autism and being on the spectrum of, like, mental disabilities or intellectual disabilities. Come on, dude. Let's get real.
Their life, they're changing their life. You know, Kyle isn't changing.
Wait, is that them? Or is that somebody in my chat? No one's in my thing, right? Okay.
Changing their mind. They're changing their mind. Kyle was just the right person at the right time to say it in the right way, but he is just 1 second of their life. And all of those moments before really contributed to them changing their mind eventually, right?
Yeah.
So I would prefer a world that was truly embodied in their belief rather than somebody who temporarily decided they were not racist, but they also weren't anti-racist. And that feels like I would rather move the world in a direction who's anti-racist rather than just not racist. That's kind of the goal. But I understand politically we need voters. I understand politically it's about winning. I understand politically there's a strategy there. Look, I was in politics when I was younger. I had a lot of opportunities. I was told directly by talk radio hosts in the Republican Party that I would have to grift my way through this job if I wanted to stay here. And I walked away. I said, look, with peace and love, I'm not doing this. Okay? And then
Just told directly you have to grift. The Republicans know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Worked in other programs. I tried to do protests and clean up streets with people, and that was really rewarding in so many ways with BLM and abortion, Planned Parenthood, stuff like that. And then once again, I was given somewhat opportunities to step my foot in the door, and I just found that I don't think I am the greatest person at doing what Kyle Klinsky does because I can't bring myself to engage in these tactics. It feels deeply unethical to me. And so I can't. So that's why I stay in my lane, because at least I can go to work every day and say I live by my values. I understand I've changed, right? I've definitely said my fair share of words on the internet that I don't say anymore. And also, like, I can't even think of a time I have tweeted a slur at a person, you know what I mean, in any capacity, let alone like Kyle Klinsky doing it recently you know what I mean? It just feels like men in this space feel justified in engaging in some form of violence that I think is inspired by the patriarchy. So it's not like they're bred into it. I get it, it's brainwashing, but I think sometimes men rely too much on violence as a cope of liberation rather than usually femmes and females and women in the spaces, and we're involving all genders. We tend to feed people and clothe people and house people, and men are busy fighting on Twitter.
I'm a woman. I'm gonna do the stereotype of all the womanly things and say like, oh, you men. I get why you want to call Trump the R slur. You think like women don't call Trump the R slur or anything like that? What are we talking about here?
And it's just like, I don't know, it just feels like not productive to me, but maybe it is,
I'll give you like an example.
Just claiming Kyle's racist. No, I don't. To be honest, I don't think that's. I think she's just broadly speaking about how people akin to Kyle would, utilize their language or whatever. And she thinks is overall unethical. My problem is not that your take here in general is like, I don't want to engage in that because I personally feel it's unethical. I don't think it's okay personally, like but like the problem is like speaking in such a specific manner of like saying like you have no value, you should not be speaking on behalf of the coalition and you're entirely worthless, and writing off the person is just is harmful, quite frankly. I think it's quite harmful.
One time I did kind of engage with dark quote content, and that's when I was kind of reckoning with myself on the stream, was when there was that one night when the Clavicular and Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes all went out to the club and they played the Heil Hitler song, and they're all in the limo and then they're in the club, etc. There was a lot of tweets being like, that's like unironically like the gayest thing ever. There's a lot of people just calling them gay just all over the timeline, essentially. I kind of like laughed at a lot of those tweets because in my mind I'm like, in that scenario maybe it works because their whole thing is being so anti-gay and being so macho and so like alpha that perhaps calling them gay is like the worst thing you could do to them. But then I was like, but at the end of the day, even though in my mind, or whoever tweeted that thing out, their intention was pure, is the gay person still the butt of the joke? So does that, if that joke can hurt a gay person, is it still worth whatever laugh I got? So I was like, ultimately, I can.
The butt of the joke, basically, though, like it's just like you're overthinking it a little bit too much here. Because the butt of the joke obviously is not that like being gay is bad. The butt of the joke is that you're closeted. I think everyone knows this. Is that you're closeted and you're clearly expressing yourself in such a specifically gay way that it's like, why don't you just come out the closet already? The joke is on you that because like you come off as weak and pathetic and like insecure because you can't just do it already. Like it's not the fact that you are gay is the funny thing that like being queer in of itself, being gay in of itself is bad. The joke is that why not just come out already? It's pretty clear you are gay.
From the perspective of this is still ultimately using gay people as the butt of the joke, so I would rather not engage with those jokes. So that was the example that I kind of, because I noticed there was just like Twitter was full of that. As for Kyle, I think I used to watch Kyle like a long time ago, ever since he had like the brown spiky hair. Like I've seen.
It's just like it is a little overly sensitive to where it's like you're like constricting yourself in terms of like your freedom of like being able to like enjoy certain like I don't know. It's like it's to such a degree where it's like this is the line for me where I'm like, okay, guys, I'm not past it. Like call me reactionary or whatever the fuck it is. Like yeah, like you're like personally just for me, I like if you want to handle yourself, that's fine. It's just like the overly condemning tone of like people who enjoy those jokes or whatever. is just really, it's quite obnoxious.
All of his phases and stuff. So I do also recognize how I still like Kyle just because I've known him for so long, and I know that whenever he does tweet something controversial, I think it's mainly to get like a rise out of people. And in his mind, I wonder if it's nice to have like an attack dog from time to time. Like should the left have one or two unhinged characters on our side that are kind of willing to go, but again, if it gets racist, if it gets homophobic, then there's a line that I'm willing to draw. But like, I'm willing to have someone be a little bit more aggressive, maybe insult a few people on Twitter, be kind of a dick, but with a limit. Don't be racist, don't be homophobic, etc. Like someone in my chat once was pointing out that he shared like a pretty racist meme, an Indian meme or something. So like there's a couple of questionable things that he's put out there. So I would say
I think there is a way. I mean, I think there is a way. I try to practice it every day on my own stream. I make jokes all the time. Like the hope is I will get better at it, and it won't come at the expense of marginalized people or vulnerable communities, because that's kind of what Trump. They love that about Trump. Trump tried to disable journalists, and people ate it.
Well, the problem with this is it's a very subjective feeling or whatever. So for all you know, the jokes that you're making, you're actually doing the behavior that you're criticizing Kyle or anyone else doing, and that thus making yourself like someone that like you're insisting shouldn't be listened to at all, which is ridiculous. It's like, what is this threshold? You need to be a little bit more specific. I can tell you my threshold where I'm thinking, like, if you're just, like, throwing out fucking slurs willy-nilly, N-words or whatever and shit like that, like, I do think there is a threshold of, like, I don't think you should just call, like, a black Republican the N-word or some crazy shit like that. That is clearly over the line. I do not think you should call, or I will stand firm on this, that even with Republican women or whatever, that, like, you should make fun of, like, say, them being molested or something like that. If there's somehow a story about them, like, telling their story or whatever, or being an essay victim or anything like that, I do think there is a certain threshold of, like, I think that is against your morals and principles and actual values. We want to talk about the specifics of, like, what the threshold for me is. I think there is a threshold.
So the dilemma is, like, I think we can be funny. I think we can even be like, sometimes I make a joke in chat's like, Brittany, I'm like, too far. And like, I'll catch myself live stream. I get it. I'm not looking for perfection. And I think the dilemma is that, like, people-wise, I get along with everyone, which is a problem because I never know.
But you kind of are. The problem is you kind of are, though, in the terms of, like, what you're talking about in tone is it's very much like, and it's also ignorant in the way that it's being said. There was a reason I was so pissed off, like, watching it, is because it's said with such an adamant vigor, not vigor, but aggressive tone of being like, this person is not to be, like, trusted and idolized, and, like, you should not conduct yourself like this, and this is a person that is a bad person or whatever. And it's like, now here you're, like, talking about, like, oh, I do this myself or blah, blah, blah. It's like, there is no room for, and the way that, like, you're talking about this is, it seemed like at that time especially, there's no room for, like, charitability or, like, you know, more like good faith criticism or something on this end. It's basically just like throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know?
When we're working together, because we are working together. Like, this is our work. And so the dilemma I always find is, like, I used to watch a lot of Kyle Kalinske way back in the day. You're better than people who don't. And then I fell off because I was just like, look, I don't know what's going on anymore, but I'm out. And what I'm looking for when I watch creators is, the problem is, like, I watch a lot of people in my own time for work when I'm gathering my thoughts, but as a viewer, I don't find myself learning as much or being stimulated or even entertained as much. And so
vigorous is a decent description, probably, yeah.
For me to then, especially with my reputation,
vigorous probably accurate. I was probably just overthinking that.
I've learned to be careful about who I casually say is good enough because of the way things turned out for me personally in this space. And now my reputation is, like, in that association forever. And I'm like, man, 1 year of my life, and now it's gonna.
She's just overcorrecting, basically. It's all because of fucking Destiny. I think that's what she's basically saying is, like, this isn't being verbalized quite explicitly here. I do think it's because, like, Destiny presented himself in a specific way, and so she's now more on guard about specific, especially male content creators that are a little bit more edgy in their, like, way of conducting themselves and presenting their content.
Bother me my whole career. So Kyle Kalinske, Hassan, any of these men, and it is usually men in this space who make a lot more money than any of the women, who do a lot better than any of the black or brown women, who do a lot better than any of the gay or trans people, right? They tend to be the #1 voices, which is technically fine, but then they reap the benefits of putting us or throwing us under the bus at the sort of for the hope of the Democrat Party or the hope of the left. But it just feels like,
wait, how do they throw you under the bus? Explain in what ways. How is Kyle Kalinske throwing any women, marginalized women especially, under the fucking bus? Or how has Hassan done this? What are you talking about?
No, it just feels like more of the same to me personally, and I don't see the point of this. But I agree that we could have 1 or 2 people who were maybe wise enough in how they attacked that it could be entertaining and good, you know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I don't like these men. I'm not saying don't watch Kyle. I'm not saying don't watch Hassan.
No,
watch
of
them,
course, of course.
Watch them. You know, I'm just saying like the reason.
That was not the impression. Chat. I don't know who was here for yesterday's stream. I do know one person, maybe two. That was not the impression I was getting. That was not the impression. This comes off as like very two-faced. It's very two-faced. For Kyle specifically.
I have to give this critique is because of I have a 70% women audience. Right? Like I am not in the space like these other people. Most people have male audiences. I do not. Most of the people in my audience are queer or adjacent. Like I am not. I know I'm here, but I'm not here. You know what I mean?
Yep. But that's the reason we wanted you on, because you do have a female audience. And what I love about your community as well is you guys are like super understanding and forgiving. Like while I was eating shit on one side of the internet, you guys were kind of understood what I was going through, and you guys are like very understanding, and like you're not very quick to judge. So I also like that the fact that we can have this conversation, and your audience is super chill. Our audience is super chill.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
No, it's all good.
Can I get the James and Casey? Could you kind of explain to me just like really briefly, like what do you think you do on the internet, so I have an idea, so as we have this conversation.
I wouldn't even know how to answer that question. What am I even doing on the internet right now?
Casey, you want to start it off?
Sure. I mean, I started, so my channel's North Star Radio. It's like my niche over the years has kind of been like going after Ethan Klein. That's like my favorite thing to do. But you know, it's just sort of I wouldn't. No offense to the three of you, but I don't know if I would call myself a leftist. I try to focus more so on imperialism, being an anti-imperialist, and focusing on geopolitics and whatnot.
Okay, cool. Love that.
Yeah, and then my thing is basically, once again, kind of got online reacting to Ethan Klein, but essentially it's just like, I'd be reacting to all of these political things and just annoying the people in my life, like talking to my girlfriend, talking to my parents about it. So I'm like, maybe I should just start a YouTube channel, give them a break, and then just start ranting online. But
okay.
Yeah, and then really like covering the election and stuff in 2024. And I had a question for you too. Can you explain to me your decentering men versus what was it? Decentering men versus anti-male? Because I watched that video and I felt like I was missing a ton of context for it.
Let me tell you, people sometimes will. I had a comment the other day, just was like, "What's the difference from misandrous and feminist?" I was like, "Do you have 17 hours straight just to hear me give you definitions? Like, why? I think this is hard because this is my special interest and it's what I read. It's constantly what I'm consuming, so it's hard to know where people are starting from.
Okay.
But I always say decentering men in my mind is decentering patriarchy, not the gender man.
Comrade Casey doesn't think of themselves as leftists. Well, yeah, you can hit a certain threshold where you're probably having similar takes as leftists, but you're not quite there. You're probably like in that middle spectrum of like liberal and leftist, where you're probably, I mean, like it seems like he has a specific focus, like he said, on anti-imperialism. Okay, another timeout. We're getting into like the very specifics here of like autism isn't actually technically an intellectual disability. Okay, bro. I don't care, bro. I don't care. 5 minutes. Part of the reason why I timed you out is because I don't want to have the conversation anymore.
And so I very much encourage people to do this, but every bubble has its own variation, because I know some people in the 4B movement, which came out of South Korea, feel like their 4B movement is about anti-men, but everyone's different, so I don't even speak for all of, I can't even tell you all 4B believes that, or all this feminist, insert this feminist philosophy framework believes this. But for Brittany, when I say decenter men, I'm saying decenter patriarchy and gender. Like I'm married, we have a genderless marriage, so in no way does gender play a role in this marriage. We don't think about it when we think about anything, money or chores or, you know, who's responsible for what, and it helps. It also helps that we don't worry too much about being on the binary, like it's not very important to us. But I think that that is hard in a world that is so scripted by gender. I mean, people don't even know what clothes to wear if they don't know their gender, right? Like we start segregating kids very young, so you know, growing up very conservative, my parents are from Iraq. I have a Syrian family. We're very like conservative. Being this person in that family means that I am the, you know, immigrant daughter stereotype where I'm just like, I'm going to make a mess. I'm going to start calling everybody out. But that means also I'm doing it because I see a point of liberation for my own siblings or my own family. And so that's kind of how I think about it. It's decentering patriarchy is the focus here.
Let's see what you're talking about here. Autism spectrum disorder and intellectual disability are distinct neurodevelopmental conditions that frequently co-occur. While While about 30 to 70% of individuals with autism also have some level of ID, many autistic people have average or above average intelligence. They differ in the ASD centers on communication and behavioral challenges, while ID centers on cognitive limitations. Co-occurrence studies indicate roughly 30% to 70% of individuals with autism also have co-occurring intellectual disability. Conversely, about 10% or more of individuals with ID also have autism. Okay, well, getting into the very specifics, intellectual disability, I think you fucking know what I mean in terms of pervasive development disorder or just retaining stuff at a slower pace, learning stuff at a slower pace, having to have specific functions that most people would consider slow, are stupid, are retarded. This is what I mean. If we're going to get into the very specifics of like the conversation about, actually you don't have this. It's like, okay, I think you know what I mean though. It's a group of conditions characterized by delays in the development of socialization and communication skills. Often people, so that's what I have, pervasive developmental disorder. Delays in the development of socialization and communication skills. Often appearing by age 3, common symptoms include language delays, repetitive behaviors, and restricted interest. While often used interchangeably with autism, PDD now largely falls under the autism spectrum disorder umbrella. It can have difficulty with social interaction, impaired communication, repetitive movements, subtypes. Okay. So, like, I know at this point you're saying, well, it's not an intellectual disability. People are going to treat it like that anyway. And so when I'm thinking of it in some way, shape, or form as that as well. So, again, the conversation is very irritating because you understand what I'm saying when I say I have autism, and I experience people calling me fucking stupid or slow, or I have, at least in the past, with people with little patience. And when I tell you, oh, this is my experience, you go into this like specifics of like, actually you don't have this. And then it just sounds like, okay, you're just like reducing to the specifics of like denying like my own personal experience and shit like that. That's what it sounds like. Okay? Come back after 5 minutes. Just chill. It's not the end of the world. It's just very fucking annoying.
I understand why people get into man-hating phases, but I think it's as a reaction to pain rather than Myron from Fresh and Fit. Going back to what you guys said about calling men gay, like people will call Myron Gaines gay. He's not gay, he's a misogynist. So what we're now doing is we're downplaying, we're saying as an insult, oh, he's a homosexual, he hates women. Nope, that's just a misogynist. And that's the irony, is like gay men can also be misogynists, but Myron is probably not gay. He's probably just hates women. And so like, I think sometimes we forget in our hope to sort of get one on the bad guy. Like this college girl, I didn't mean to call her a little girl, I'm just
well,
old.
some people would call Myron Gaines like gay or something in terms of like some people's internalized feelings of why they're a misogynist, right, is because they feel like socially that they're supposed to be into women and they're not, and they resent women for this, and they've been socialized into believing that they, as a man, should not be gay, and so there is a resentment, an internalized self-loathing that comes out in misogynistic tendencies.
Woman goes up to Myron and calls him an F slur, and I was like, no, focus.
Oh my God.
Like, the focus. And like, that's the problem, is like, it sounds good, right? Let me throw a couple slurs around here, left and right. Let me get one on them. But what does that end up doing, right? Did you guys hear about it ended up being a black man, but they thought it was a white man calling an ICE agent the N-word? Did you guys hear this story?
I didn't hear that story.
I'm on the other side of the internet.
It ended up being a black man.
I heard about this. I don't think that was acceptable.
Apparently ended up being a black man, but they thought he was white, and he called the ICE agent who was black a house N-word. Okay? Obviously inappropriate. But then the internet was divided. And then even some black liberals were saying, oh, this is allowed though. And I'm like, pause. And then I was like, oh, this isn't my area. Like, this isn't my area. But I featured black leftist voices and black.
But yeah, that's a conversation for themselves in terms of like, is that behavior accurate? And like, are black people allowed to utilize that certain dark woke language that is its own internal conversation within that community. And honestly, I would respectfully, it's not my place necessarily because I'm not black, but I would understand why some black people would come to the conclusion of like, I think this is appropriate. I think it's appropriate to use this towards somebody who's like basically betraying, you know, their brothers, you know.
Voices were like, no. And I was like, they said no. Like, that sounds crazy. Just start giving white people the pass when it's an ICE agent. Same way I feel with men. Because even in my own community, usually I don't censor certain words. But I noticed that certain men say the B word with a passion that I'm like, hold up. Maybe I gotta revoke your B card word, your B card. Because it's how you say it. And it matters. It matters in a world where Trump is, legally found liable. Like in a world where these men are on these lists, in a world where no one's been arrested for Epstein, like in a world where we are just discounting the harm done to vulnerable communities, it is important for people to feel a little bit concerned when the men who say they're on our side willingly engage in casual misogyny to quote on the right.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And I don't know about you, but if any type of engagement with right-wing Twitter or any kind of conservatives, I really feel like since Trump got elected, the amount of misogyny and just pure hatred towards women has been really off the charts. Like it's been multiplied tenfold. I don't know if that's something that you've experienced and what your opinion on that is. I think that it's just so ingrained in conservative culture that it's really easy to always bring talking points back to being misogynist. Like even Pete Hegseth's private, like personal pastor, like wants women to not vote. Like it's all the way up to the top of this administration. And I don't as a woman online, have you experienced an increase in misogyny and kind of just like hatred in your experience online?
Well, I will say at this point, I'm a seasoned YouTuber, so I kind of understand how to keep certain people away from my channel. I think I do pretty well at like diverting angry men on the internet away from my channels, unless I really want to get paid because they really bring in the views. But I think what I've done is I've heavily also censored a lot of my channels from these people. I do get a lot of like really disgusting comments and death threats, and I just censor those ones and I report a lot. Like I got one the other day that said, so what I'm getting from this is like, I should go essay someone. Thanks, Britt. And I'm like Brittany inspired me to go essay someone. Like these.
What the? It's a deranged comment.
Ends up, oh, I'm gonna get her at her own game because she's calling me out, for calling cheating predatory. It's like, oh, I'm gonna, So I think what happens is that men come, they're angry, they're upset. I have a secondary channel too that gets more views, and that channel in particular, where I do like edited content, that comment section, that area where I don't censor my comments, oh, ruthless, really anti-black, really homophobic, really transphobic, really angry men on the internet, and I don't like it in my.
There's a lot of bots too. That's the thing too. It's like the dead internet theory thing is hard. It's now harder to gauge, even though a lot of them are legitimate, like real people. I'm not denying this, but it's really hard to gauge sometimes on like websites like Twitter or YouTube even, where it's just like a bunch of bots being sent directly to the specific channel with the intent of like harassing them with like the most like derogatory, like sexist, misogynistic, racist comments possible to get under their skin. It's a profound hatred that they would have, and I'm not sure at times like what is like a legitimate just like bot or like an actual like this person like willingly typed this out because they're just like that like passionate and angry.
Stream channel because I really do live here and I read all the comments and it like emotionally.
Like when I made like the Asman, I deleted these by the way because it's like here's how I think of it is like why do these people get to brigade my shit and like completely cluttered up the comment section. So I deleted all of it because it's like you're filth. Like you're like less than. You're not allowed to have a comment on any of these things because you're less than. Why would I win the minging video? But like this was cluttered. There was 2K views. So for whatever reason, now that's not like a lot, but for like my channel size, that's a little deranged. It just kind of clutters up. And it's like, there was like, insane thing after insane thing of like just the most inept Asmongold speds possible. And this was with the Emeru stuff too. And most of it was like absurdly like racist and pro-ICE and, quite frankly, misogynistic. And it's like, yeah, I'm just going to delete all that because it's clutter. It's clutter. Their lives are clutter. They do not deserve a voice in my space.
So I keep that channel uncensored and I don't really look at it because YouTube.
So I do get why she like does it from time to time, like, because like these people do clutter up your space or whatever.
Punish you for censoring.
They
your
get like eerily like obsessed and passionate about doing that too.
Because it looks like no one's interacting with your content.
That makes sense.
So, and since the haters make videos do better in the algorithm, so I kind of take the hit on my stream channel in a hopes that like that secondary channel will kind of help. But like I kind of take the hit on my stream channel, so I just block all of them, to be honest. But I'm not sure that it's any more than I got anytime I entered any email spaces, to be honest. But I will say that I think it would be more if I didn't censor better. I think it would be unbearable. And I'll tell you this, because of my run-in with other liberal Democrat men on the internet, I know that liberal men just aren't safe because they haven't done enough deconstruction of the patriarchy. And I know because I was harassed for multiple years after interacting with a part of the internet. And that tells me, okay, there's something very low trust about this space. If you guys grow up high trust, that means like I trust people to be themselves. When Anthony says his name is Anthony, I believe him. When Anthony tells me a story, I just believe it, right? I was in a part of the internet where when I would just say a story, people just like, no. And I'm like, no. And they just wouldn't believe me. And I didn't grow up in that space. I grew up in a very trusting neighborhood with very trusting neighbors. I grew up with a really trusting family. And I think you have to be very careful.
Not to make excuses for other people's behavior in this shape or form, because it is a bit ridiculous how people operate. I do agree with this assessment, but like there's a little lack of accountability and responsibility in how she conducts herself to a degree, where she will just take some absurd positions and kind of write off people and their other perspectives like a lot quicker. There was people that would respond to her accordingly, point by point by point, and there's not really a willingness to actually meaningfully engage with any of that stuff. Now, Desi's community, it's like you could just write off for the most part, because most of them like were operating in a disgusting manner, of course. But this wasn't always the case. This wasn't always the case.
Did you interact with?
Like it is a little. It's like you're engaging with the space in a very particular way, in a very specific space, and of course, like the things you say at times will be disagreed with vehemently, because some of the things you would be saying is a little ridiculous at times, and well, quite frankly, there was things worthy of criticism that you were doing that were harmful, and you just completely wrote off, not realizing the actual harm. I still don't know if she'd be willing to admit that she committed any harms in the past with her behavior in the past with the numerical value system and anything like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there is no point trying to speak to her. She is completely self-absorbed and an egomaniac. She will not change her mind even if proven wrong. Yeah.
Or like a femme especially, but just when you're kind of the person who assumes everyone's kind of telling the truth. You know what I mean? Because I do tell the truth.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say is like it's the internet. Like it's always like why did you like everyone's on guard. That's the other thing. Like on the internet, everyone's like on guard or whatever with content creators, where they're like I don't really know if I like buy this personality. I don't know if this person is telling the truth, because a lot of content creators will, especially to get attention and money or whatever, will interact in a dishonest manner. To today, she's scamming hundreds of bucks from her fans for private calls. I mean, I don't know that for certain. Maybe you know better than I do. She used to do that.
So I kind of assume we're all at our jobs telling the truth. And then when I meet grifters and stuff, I'm like, uh-oh. And that's the concern I have with even good people engaging in like what I think is like negative behavior. The behavior I associate with bad people. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And by the way, can I just say something?
But again, like people are kind of imperfect. Like some of these like behaviors or whatever, it's just not like really worth like dissecting to such a degree where it's like, oh, you should write this person off. Now she's saying in this call, oh, like you shouldn't write off these people and not engage with these people's, you know, content or whatever. You should write them off because of this perception that she has here. But it's like all of us are imperfect. Brittany herself even admits this. is like this naive notion that, humans in general are not going to be engaging in any way, shape, or form, even on an emotional basis, that is a little bit of improper or uncouth at times.
I did see a clip where you said something like, I thought this was going to be about Kyle, but it's all about Brittany. I'm autistic, and the way autistic people generally try to get people to understand them is to talk about themselves so they know it's like a real experience. So if you notice, she's talking about herself a lot, it's autism. So you're welcome.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I was like very confused first jumping into your stream, and I'm like, okay, we're on the Kyle segment, and then like a minute later we're talking about something else. I'm like, okay, this is gonna take some more focus than I was expecting it to take.
Yeah. Very neurodivergent streamer that I am. Yeah.
I think we're all suffering from a lack of attention span a little bit, just being chronically online.
True.
But one thing we were kind of curious about, because another thing that you mentioned is, I think you like briefly were touching on kind of Hassan's split with ContraPoints and Destiny. So I was kind of curious about, because you're talking about your interaction with liberal streamers and their space there. My mind immediately jumped to like Destiny's community, but I don't know if that's true or not. And I was just wondering if you could like speak more about that.
Just
if you're comfortable, you don't have to.
Well, a direct question probably works better for my brain, but I will say this: I just finished watching for my stream in preparation this week Contra's 3-hour conversation that she just posted. I forgot who the host was. Chat probably knows, but this conversation, first of all, I don't even know why she doesn't like Hassan. They're very similar, and like I don't know why she won't work with him. But like and this is the irony. I've worked with Contra, I've worked with Destiny. I have never worked with Hassan, and I have gone around where I've worked with enough people in the space to know that I think ultimately, and I mean this so respectfully, we are all mentally ill. We all need therapy, and we're all very honestly passionate about what we do. Like I think Hassan is passionate. I think Destiny's passionate. I think Contra's passionate. I think I'm passionate.
Contra is not passionate. Dude, no. Destiny is not. Well, Destiny's passionate in terms of he doesn't actually care about the. It's like he's like passionate in the sense of like, what does he garner out of like crafting up this cult-like persona, cult-like aura? Like he's passionate in that regard. He's passionate about certain people being. Certain detractors being completely destroyed at whatever cost. He's very obsessive. Contra is not really meaningfully. You could argue at a certain point in time, Contra was passionate. There's no passion in that person. You look at that. You look at Contra. There's no passion there. I do not see it. I do not see any passion in that person meaningfully there. It's not there. She is apathetic. She is comfortably. Lazy. She's I put it as like she's comfortable with being defeated.
The dilemma here is who's doing the work to really understand why they're so passionate. So here's Contra talking about how the radicals aren't radical enough, and I'm like, to do something, Natalie, do something. And then Natalie's not doing anything, right? Then I look at Hassan and I'm like, you're the biggest microphone. Say something. And then he's doing this thing over here. We're all looking at each other like, do something. And then Destiny, I don't know what happened there. Like that was, I don't think anyone could have quite, I don't know what happened there. But like, obviously this like pro-Zionist, anti-Palestine grift he's on, I don't even know what's happening there. But I will say that obviously discounting him, because I don't think we should even engage with him, right? On the predator scale, on the Zionist, like no one should even be talking to him.
Valid take, very valid take there. Based. That's a base take.
There is, if you're going to be working with the Democrats, which Hassan does really well, I don't know why him and Natalie aren't getting along. Versus I will not work.
It's not that difficult, Brittany. If you were a leftist, you would understand what, because she is a Zionist. It's not that difficult to comprehend. Do you still not understand this? Hasn't approached the level of deranged and obsessiveness on this topic and the level of uncouth behavior as Ethan Klein, but that's her position. It's pro-Zionism.
With the Democrats, which is why I'm not in politics.
So I don't know why you're surprised by this.
Because I won't do it.
How are you surprised by this? Oh my God. Come on.
And
challenge her on this, please. I'm begging you. Challenge her on this. It's like, wait, how, like, respectfully just be like, wait, how do you not understand that this person is, after watching that 3-hour conversation, that this person's perspective is leaning more towards Destiny's perspective than it is Hassan's? Isn't it like, it's very clear. It's clear as day.
What's the reason why you won't work with Democrats?
Well, I chose politics not to be my job for a reason because every time I was in those spaces, they needed me to do things that were against my ethics, my morals. Like I need to sleep at night, and I would rather volunteer in my community. I would rather feed people. I'd rather fund people. I'd rather come on fundraiser streams. I'd rather babysit neighbors' kids. Like I would rather do anything but work side by side in a situation where like I have to not sleep at night because I engaged in a political.
I mean, that's I guess that's fine for you, but there's like political advocacy where you don't have to actually engage in like the actual inner workings of the actual politics sphere or whatever. You don't actually have to do that. But yeah, I don't. So again, it's like a very privilege of like I've decided to actually not engage in this space, but I can be hypercritical of people engaging in this space, having to give up like one or two, principle moral issues in order to like fight for the greater good outcome for not just America but other places that they have in mind, other countries that they have in mind that they want to like help out.
I didn't even want to do, right? So like I just can't do it, but I can see why like Hassan can or Natalie can or they can. Like I get it. I can't do it, and I think that's okay. I think everyone plays a different role, but like I said, I voted for Kamala Harris. I will vote Democrat. I will do those things. Gavin Newsom's a whole other conversation. Don't even get me started. But I would love a leftist candidate. I would like a real leftist candidate.
Yeah.
I would love somebody who's unapologetically pro-trans, unapologetically pro-black, unapologetically pro every like marginalized community. Like I would like somebody who's so pro, like unapologetically pro-Palestine. Like not somebody who like wishy-washy. Oh, I'm anti-genocide. Just say I'm pro-Palestinian. Just say I'm pro. Just say I'm. I would love that candidate, and I would vote for that candidate. And that's what I'm hoping for.
That's been my biggest issue with the Democrats. Like, that's why I feel like I can't endorse a single Democrat, especially as like someone living in the Middle East right now. Like their policies, and I know I get that Trump is worse. And like for the first time, seeing what was happening in the region over the last couple of months, I was like, should I have voted for Kamala? Like, would it have been that bad? Like, I did get that regret because at one point I'm like, you were the vice president during the genocide. I'm never going to vote for you. I'm never going to support a single Democrat that is not super anti-Israel, wants to cut funding to Israel. Because at this point, this is literally affecting our everyday life right here. So that's why, like, that's a personal reason why, even though I'll agree with Democrats more than I would with Republicans, I don't think I can.
And this is why I think, like generally speaking, like I don't think you should engage like Hutch or Loner Box or any of these lib Zionists basically, and just be like, why are you criticizing Gavin Newsom? Why are you saying you wouldn't vote for Gavin Newsom or whatever? I'm on that perspective of like, vote blue no matter who. When it comes down to it, it comes down to the wire. If this is your candidate, then yeah, sure, it's better than a Republican. But like, you should want more, and you should fight for more, and really like put your foot down and say like here's my line. You have to appeal to me. You have to appeal to me. Earn my fucking vote. Actually earn it.
Support them, even if it's just for one issue. And I know that's for I know that's not a good thing necessarily, because I know I'm being a single issue voter in this case, and Democrats could be better for America for 100 other reasons, whether the economy, rent, etc. I still can't get myself to vote for anyone who condones like a genocide or like who just stood by and let it happen. So that's kind of why I can't fuck with them.
Well, and I'll say this because I think this was the hardest point, because obviously during the election I had I have a population. I love my audience. Like they really are just like a perfect combination of the most like diverse corners of the world coming together with one unified hope for the world, and that we do less bad every day. And so a lot of the Arab community.
My fear is being realized. I think UL is being way too safe and generous with Brittany Simon. Dude, the things he was saying, even the things that he caught, it's just like, I get, okay. Dude, the things I was hearing was insane. Afterwards, I really wish he heard like more from her, because it was insane to hear the whole like, yeah, like to be a good person, you're gonna have to. Sometimes you're just gonna have to die. You're gonna have to be killed. It is weird how it wasn't blue no matter who when Mamdani won his primary. Yeah.
Like Brittany, like I can't vote for her. What do I do? And I said, don't. I said, better for you to sleep at night fighting for your people than to vote for a woman who's like basically contributing to the genocide. And that was a contention. Like people were pretty upset with me for saying that, but I would rather everyone sleep at night than otherwise. And I understand that politics is about winning. But I really think politics is where good people go to die, because I think like if you were a good person, if you were really a philosophically good person, you could not do these things to people.
Yeah.
And I think that is the dilemma with our political systems as they are, is like they're ruthlessly philosophically evil. And this cannot be the solution for humanity to move forward.
Okay, now how do you change that system? How do you change that system without having? How do you? You're forced to either engage with that system to get a greater good outcome, a lesser evil outcome, right? Or you have to deconstruct the system entirely, which will require, at least the fastest way especially, a violent revolution that would have a lot of people, engaging against their morals and principles in order to attain that outcome for the greater good. So you're like in a bind here, Brittany. Like no matter what, you're sacrificing lives in one way, shape, or form. You're in a bind here. You don't get to get away with this idea of like, I'm just like a good person. Like I just think like you need to be philosophized that like you're just a good person. Like I'm Thorfinn. I have no enemies. As nice as that sounds, to be like a character like Thorfinn, where you can just continuously run and run and run, and just take all the punches in the face or whatever. Like that's just not the real world at all. It sounds nice on paper, but that's not the real world.
And you can't put pressure on. And
I guess I'll die then. I guess I'll just die. I guess I'll just let other people die too.
Like for example, there's a bunch of Arabs that voted for Trump. Like Dearborn swung to like towards Trump, and I'm like, you know what? Like that's a stupid decision. But I'm like, I can't. Ultimately, that's one demographic that I just can't blame because they're witnessing something pretty traumatic happening to their people at the hands of their president. So it was a protest vote, and it's just making things worse.
That vote doesn't even make sense on that end. I'm gonna be real though. I'm not gonna vote for Kamala because of what Biden's doing right now and her complicity in that. So therefore, let me vote for Trump, even though I reasonably know that Trump would just do the bidding of Netanyahu, and probably likely worse, do more. I don't understand that reasoning. I actually don't understand that reasoning personally. Me personally, I just don't get that. But okay.
But I do kind of get that.
I don't get that. I don't know why he gets that, but okay. I don't get that, but okay.
I'll tell you, because I'm a philosophy channel, I'll even go a step further. I don't think we should blame anyone for anything. Because I think we're evolved animals on a planet, and I think we're all
Wow. Brilliant.
of our environment and our biological experience, and my hope is we have a deeper relationship with that biological experience to be less bad every day. Like I do.
I place no blame. I have no enemies.
Struggle even with my own family, who a lot of them are MAGA. Like, the meme of like old immigrants making faces at new immigrants. Like that's some of my family members. I was like, you're immigrants, and then just like, but this is the cycle, and this is the problem, and so much of it is just a burden.
It really is a privilege. It really is a privileged existence that like you can just have this thought process. I'm sorry, it really is. You have to be like, I'm sorry. It really is extremely privileged. It's just like I just can't imagine sitting there and saying shit like this.
I think as especially femme people in the family, if you know chat, we have to carry the burdens of our fathers who won't go to therapy, and our brothers who won't read any books, and our mothers who uphold the patriarchy. And so there's a lot of compassion to be had, which means to suffer with, right? Compassion is to suffer with. And so I always tell people, if you're a leftist, first learn to be compassionate towards MAGA and then hold them accountable. It will make you a better person.
Kind of going off of that, from a philosophy perspective, how do you interact and
It's so funny that you say this. I remember, dude, I was watching his coverage today, and was Uninformed Leftist was basically just like watching her spew on about being like a philosophy girly and shit like that. And he's just like, it's like, you know what? I don't really fuck with philosophy like that. I think this philosophy shit is like bullshit. I think all this shit is bullshit. I was like, that's kind of base. Because, like, I feel like, okay, it's fun to, like, talk about to some extent, but, like, being so obsessive over this, like, the philosophy stuff gets to, like, such a pretentious extent where you, like, end up sounding like fucking Michael Burns or Brittany Simon, and it's just like, dude, like, you're getting to the point where you're saying stupid shit where it's like, oh, I don't think you can place blame on anyone. We're just like evolved creatures. And it's like everyone's already aware we're evolved creatures. But we like interact as a society to hold each other accountable because, within reason at least, like as we interact with each other, there is a reasonable, means of like how everyone should like interact with each other or like treat each other. We're too evolved to blame. Smug face.
To counteract bigotry, both in your personal life and as an online figure, because that's something that we kind of brushed on earlier. And I'm just really curious to hear your perspective when you're coming at it from the perspective of like, obviously everyone's in charge of their own actions and their own emotions and feelings on things. But how do you bring someone out of such a hatred, like such a hate-filled point in their lives?
Yeah, well, that's really difficult. I think that's going to be my sort of a life's work, if you will. But I and I use my family because it's tangible to me as a living experience. I always say you can't make peace with the family, you want to make peace with the earth. Like we're really.
And it's also also so inconsistent too, where it's just like, I can just live with my family, and I can just kind of forgive, forget, or not exactly that verbatim, but kind of just. I know how my family interacts. I know that they're ignorant. I know that they have like vile positions and stuff like that. And just kind of like, I love them anyway. And then like with like how you interact in a space where you're like, I just unfollow this person. I just unfollow this person. I block this person. I block this person. And like not having conversations with any of those people. But it's like, I don't know. Like the distinction is like, yeah, it's family. It's who you grew up with and you loved. It is a little irrational. But it's also like, it's also this notion where it's like, I can never, it's like, you're like unwilling to mold yourself and kind of have to interact with people that think meaningfully different from you and challenge yourself and challenge them in order for them to grow, or like try to remedy bit by bit, individual by individual, like some of the ills of our society. And it's like, what do you it's like, it's only so much you can do. I'm not expecting like having these conversations you're gonna change these people overnight or anything like that's unreasonable, I think. But it's like, it's just like this way of conducting yourself is a little ridiculous when it's like, oh, my family is like very bigoted. I tolerate them and I love them anyway. It's like, okay, dude.
As people, we have this really beautiful version of the world that exists in our head, like no traffic and fair taxes and
live in a society. I think I really pissed off Aw. I think Aw's really upset with me. And you know what? I was a little mean to Aw.
It comes down to your neighbors, and then all of a sudden you're going to make a list of reasons your neighbors should be fed and they should be housed, and actually I hate them. And honestly, they're loud at night, and really their dog will not stop barking. So honestly, evict them. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, so what I want us to be grounded in do the right thing even if nobody else is doing it. Like do the right thing, but I also believe, and this is the hard part, and I understand it, I don't think morals are objective. I think they're a subjective experience filtered through this thing we call a brain. And so when we're existing in the world, we have to process that this thing that we all have, it doesn't operate the same for everybody. And so it's all of our duty to know how.
Did you guys know that like morals aren't objective? Did you guys know that like morals aren't objective? Did you guys know that? Did you know that morals are subjective? I am very smart. I'm a philosophy girly. Didn't you guys know this already? That morals aren't objective? There's a set of standards, a set of behaviors, a set of like conducting oneself, a set of running a society that like to a certain extent, yeah, sure, you can say that. No, morals aren't, there's no objective morals, but there's like relatively an understandable, agreed upon set of notions of like how we would like to treat each other for the most part. That gets pretty close. To like, would we like this to happen to us? Do we think this is ethical to do to others? Like, do we agree upon, like, on a consistent basis of like, do we think like, would we like it if like our marriage rights were revoked as straight people? Only gay people can get married. Do we think that would be like reasonable? Everyone has constructed different like forms of like, kind of reasoning out their like bigotry and their like hatred or like fear of like people different than us. Like to a certain extent, it's like it all stems from this like from that place, and it's like yeah, to some extent, like sure, I guess you could say like there is no objective morals, but I think there's like a well-reasoned, structured, way of thinking that like for the most part we all agree upon. Like I don't think murder should be happening willy-nilly here. I don't think it's necessarily legal. I don't think we should condone this being like something that happens a lot more. I don't think being a rapist is okay.
To figure out how to understand our place in the universe, to understand our bodies, to understand our like as an autistic person who was late diagnosed, this framework, this filter that's in my head, it means that I just experience the world so differently, which is probably why I'm in philosophy, which is also probably why I rub people the wrong way with my work also, because they're attached to a script they've been given, and I'm saying, what if we constructed a new one? Like, what if we did a new script?
Like, you're not saying anything that interesting or new. That's why you rub me the wrong way. Like, you think you're like saying something super profound and fucking different and interesting here, but you're really fucking not. Like, it's been done before, it's been heard before. Like, you're constructing it in such a manner and speaking in such a smug manner and condescending manner that it's like, okay, dude, congratulations. Congratulations for pointing out the obvious.
That coincides with the original one, and it slowly erodes at it like a generational curse. You want to chip away, sort of, at that generational trauma. So eventually, the outcome is something better. So bigotry, right? It's bigotry and prejudice are in all of us to some extent, on some spectrum, and in some way. So they're cultural. So now you have to question your culture. They're biological. Why do I have this feeling when I see this person? My dad used to say to me, Betty, when you see a gay person, don't you just feel this like disgust in your stomach? I was like, no, you're having a biological reaction that a therapist can help you with, and that will help you figure out your bigotry. And he has 3 gay kids. I'm one of them. So keep that in mind, right? Okay. So when we think about the world, we understand ourselves as mind, body, and then maybe consciousness, this thing that you think is thinking, right? So your brain, when maybe you smoke or you drink something, you're like having an altered state of mind, but now you're having it sober with the thoughts.
I'm asleep. This rambling is putting me to sleep. Holy shit.
Embodied, or the thoughts that you started to believe about yourself. Think conspiracy theorists. Like, how does a normal person who has a normal job become a conspiracy theorist? They start to believe, then they embody, and then they don't counteract. They don't question. And I don't mean question like a conspiracy theorist. I mean a data-driven questioning. So, can I see a study on that? Can I understand how that came to be? Can I question this thing that we've seen? But where's the data, right? So I think for me, it's constantly asking yourself why and constantly questioning things. Like, take it back to the beginning. I asked you both why or what you do on the internet, and I wanted to follow it up with the why question, but it's interesting. James, I think you said you were talking to your friends and family about politics, and then you decided just to come here. And that idea is like, is that really your why, though? Is that why you're out here? Is that why your face is here, your voice is here, your reputation?
Therapy time with James. Brittany's gonna internally dig into like what's the real reason you're actually talking. Like, yeah, it is very obvious. It isn't as simple as I was talking with my family a little bit too much about politics. I sense there's more internal reasons as to why you actually wanted to do the content that you wanted to do. I feel like a total fucking asshole here because.
Is here.
It's just pointing out the most obvious shit here, and it's like, oh my god, listening to it, it just feels like she's thinking she's like spitting here, and she's saying something like.
Why you get out of bed every day?
I like, dude, her whole energy, her whole vibe. This is what I mean by about vibes, bro. Just like over time, you just pick up like certain attributes of certain people's like conduct and behavior or whatever, and it's like. Can this person like reason me into this position? And it's like I don't think the way they conduct themselves, like if they're trying to convince me of something like that, like I didn't agree with before or whatever, would they be able to convince me of it? And it's like would like Brittany be able to convince me like if I thought the sky was red for whatever reason, and it was obviously blue, would she be able to convince me that it's blue? It's like no, I don't think so.
And come on the internet? Is it because you just don't have anyone to talk about politics with? Like, what's your real why?
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. And like,
I'm just on some real hater energy here, man.
Obviously, I do agree with you. Like, it's easier to not come onto it's easier to not come onto the internet, and like I think that the reason that I come onto here, it would be the same reason that I wanted to talk to my family about it too. And I'm sure you can relate to this, but I think that voices on the internet are important because it gives something, it gives people something to kind of identify with and reinforce the idea that they're not alone. As we do live in like an increasingly atomized society where people do feel like they're more and more alone, they have less friends, they look to community online. And if that's something that can be like a positive impact on people by helping create a space where they feel represented, they feel like their feelings are being validated, and also informed and kind of inoculated a little bit against right-wing waves of misinformation, bigotry, and hatred. And I feel like that's something that everyone can relate to, having the satisfaction of not just like ranting online into the void, but creating a real community of people. Like, as you say, your streaming channel is kind of your safe space online, and it's a community that brings you happiness. And I'm sure that's what everyone can relate to on here.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! All the mods on the channel. Anytime there's anything remotely like mean or offensive, I don't even have time to read it in the mods to take care of that stuff. I think I agree with Brittany. Like, it's important to keep your community feeling safe, because a live stream community is not like a VOD community where people can just dump a comment and go. Like, people have to. You're hanging out for like 2 to 3 to 4 hours. So if there's one person just killing the vibe in the community, you have to keep.
I think we veered off the topic that I wanted to like talk. I wanted them to like stay on. We're not even on that topic anymore about like. Oh my god. I'm so disappointed in this episode.
And also, forget the community. It distracts me as well. Like, if there's like people bickering in the chat, or there's like stuff going on, like I can't focus on what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to talk, and there's people having like separate
I
conversations.
don't even think I was expecting like super duper aggressive like behavior. I just think like some more challenging on this notion of like her actual words and tone and demeanor of like talking about it in the way that she did. Oh man, like I just wanted something a little bit more challenging, because like this person is just like, it's like a fucking snake, dude.
In the chat, I know they're always having separate conversations, but when there's like serious like arguing, I'm like, what's going on? And I end up scrolling back to see where's the post that started everything? Where's that one chat? And
I
then
feel like I become a mom where I'm like, who's
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
what? Who's making a mess? I see something.
I know. I saw a clip of you doing that.
Apologize.
You're like, you two are fighting. Stop it. Cut it out.
Yeah, soul nurse stirred me right there. Yeah, well, because these are real people. I think that's the other thing too. Is like I've done physical events. I've met real people in these communities. I've interacted with people, and so when you really start to grasp, like, oh, I'm really impacting real people's lives. I think that sense of responsibility is coming out, right? Like I told my stream I'm training to be the adult in the room, because you think I want to get on stream and just make mukbangs and talk about fucking nothing and talk about my favorite anime scenes and like not question anything. You know that I think that's the most frustrating thing about who I've been since I was a little girl, where I'm just like, I want to have fun too, but also, have you guys heard about like the war that's happening? Like, have you guys heard about homophobia? And that's what I did. That's like I made the decision 6 years ago to go.
Oh my god, is this gonna go anywhere interesting? Please, God forbid, something. Challenger on something.
Since we were talking
I'm not even asking for like heavily aggressive shit, just please a little bit more.
People, and we don't say things perfectly, but I really am trying to be good faith, you know?
I did also have a question, and since we were talking a little bit about guilty pleasures, my guilty pleasure is watching UFC. And as someone who's coming from a majority female community online and a philosophy breakdown, what's your opinion on that shit? Because
oh my god, please, oh my god, really?
Watch Tucker Carlson, or do I watch him to say, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's like, how much of Tucker do I have to watch to know?
Oh my god, let's find something. Please, a little bit meat to the bones. Please, something, please. This is an L episode.
That area of the world. And that's why I always tell people, real people live there. Real people are everywhere. Nobody is different. And America's propaganda, the greatest piece of propaganda America ever fed.
Okay, this is wholly worthless. I'm very disappointed in this episode. I'm not gonna lie. Can we find something?
It's cute and endearing, right? What's the meme in Hassan's community? He really nailed that social
maybe
interaction.
let's try
That's
this.
like the meme, right? Same thing with clavicular. He's so socially awkward, but because he's somewhat attractive, people go, oh, whatever.
It's a
girls,
quirk.
It's a quirk. You're quirky. And so that, I think, is reinforced through patriarchy as well. Like, patriarchal standards, you have beauty standards for all genders. And so I just think...
Okay, alright. This is fucking lame. It's lame. Okay. Very disappointed in this episode. I didn't get what I wanted, I guess. Oh, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna have to deal with the fact that I'm the only one being unhinged about what was said. Uninformed Leftist was definitely like not happy about what was being said when he was like viewing it, but I think he's trying to be like polite and not too aggressive, challenging her on the show. Unfortunate. What's going on with Mary Chu? Is there...
Kind of accept what you have, understand that you probably can't do anything else, because I'm not going to afford like facial surgery and shit, and I don't care anymore. And just accept the more and lesser, you know? There's always time for someone to change their perspective. But it's not my job to help people.
Collins, welcome. Discord linked in description. Is there anything I want to challenge Mary Chu on, really? Do I care enough? Maybe I can get her perspective a little bit more on trans issues or something. Maybe let's see. I don't know if I have anything like super serious to like challenge on. Like, I don't know. There's like something where I'm like really upset about what you said about this and that. Let me ask. Still taking calls?
There's like a lot of new people. There's a lot of new people in my Discord. I appreciate it. We'll go for a bit longer. I am probably becoming incoherent as fuck at this point. It's getting late, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, I lost my banana. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh.
That's not good. Good.
Oh, okay. There we go. Sorry. What's up?
Hi. How you doing?
Hey. I watched a little bit last night on my stream of your Ico video, and then a tiny bit. I haven't seen your full debate with Ico, which I plan on watching sometime soon here. I guess I just wanted to get like a little bit of a better understanding of your positions on, trans issues in general. Like, I want to get a feel out of like your positions from everything. If that makes sense.
Trans issues. So I'm like quite centrist, I guess. When I started my channel, I was very frustrated. Do you know what TRA refers to?
I'm gonna be honest, I do not. Can you inform me on that?
It means like trans rights activist, like, very progressive, very much kind of, full trans rights on everything, like trans women in women's sports, like kids,
Is the acronym TRE, trans rights everything, right?
Activist. So TRA.
Trans rights activist. TRA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I know.
That kind of
I know
thing.
generally the trans rights like movement of people saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like different feelers out for like the exploration on the gender topic. What is the meaningful difference between sex and gender? When does it blur together? How we should like treat people with like different, like say like I've been like back and forth on like the more neo part of it where somebody can say, oh, I identify as the gender like purple. And it's like, can I like meaningfully disagree with like this like generalized view of like gender of like your expression of identifying as this specific color and this specific like pronouns? Like, do I have a meaningful critique personally of like, oh, I don't think you can ever define yourself as this gender expression. I don't know if I can personally do that where I feel like comfortable with being like, I think that's non-valid. If like I have to stay consistent on this like overall perspective of trans issues of a person turning into a woman or even defining themselves as non-binary or a man, like the other way around, you know what I mean? So like I guess I wanted to get like those feelers out of like the perspective of like neo genders as well, stuff like that. Like, yeah, like you seem like a little bit of a centrist, and I got that vibe of centrism, but I wasn't completely sure.
Yeah, like I'm somewhere between that and like gender critical, I guess. I think like anyone can identify anything. Anyone can just say, I'm this. You know, you get the
Sure.
attack helicopter memes and stuff like that.
I think the
And if
question
that's,
for
like,
me at a
mean-
certain point though is like, I think like the important question to me is like, what does that mean to you? Like, so if like I were to ask like, for the example, I don't know if you know about the Demon Mama, like the dough stuff, like one of her
I'm
partners.
somewhat familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, like the so like, it would be like, what is the question of like, what does it mean to identify yourself? Because it does sound absurd to like the average person usually, but it's like, what does that internally mean of like, I identify as like a deer, or here's my expression as like a tree or something like that. It can sound ridiculous on
Yeah.
its notion, on its face or whatever, but like for them, they would express it in a sense of like, this is just an expression of like my personality. It almost seems like that's like, there's like this internal feeling of like, this is how I should express myself in my gender. Just like non-binary, where it'd be like, oh, like, I don't think like I identify with this specific way of, you know, presenting as a man or a woman, how usually people see it. Like, I can flip back and forth. So, like, would it be just another variation of non-binary, or like, should I take this like notion of like, I'm presenting as this specific thing? Like, how often also, like, if you're saying I'm deer gender, what is the expression in terms of how you, like, what does that mean to be that? Like, how often do you have to express this notion of being a deer? You know what I mean? It's a little vague and nebulous to me.
Yeah, like a lot of that stuff, like I tend to, so my experience is like very binary, like male to female, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a huge amount to say on like the non-binary stuff. In general, I feel like, well, you can identify as what you want. And if that's meaningful to you and it expresses some part of how you feel, then fair enough.
Yeah.
I think in general, you probably can't expect too much for other people to understand it or for it to be meaningful to other people. You know, when it's something like crazy, like, you know, out there, like I'm a deer gender or something.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's kind of a separate conversation, I guess, from trans. Like, to be honest, I don't see non-binary and trans as the same thing. I think the kind of umbrella thing is a bit annoying.
Well, I guess I see it in the same way that, like, if there's an expression of non-binary in the sense of transitioning, I guess it depends. Because usually I think of like trans issues being like I know people refer to like they'll say like not being trans, like trans doesn't have to define like you have to have like medical transitions or something like that. But usually, at least in my brain, usually it tends to be the case that there is some level of gender dysphoria that people make modifications, body modifications, take HRT, stuff like that to like fit that criteria. And also there's this like thing that happens even within cis people and expressing their gender. Like they'll get body modifications in one way, shape or form. Like say like men can have like hair transplants or something like that. I think what was it? Like Steven Crowder was getting something done with his chest or something like that. That like, I think he felt needed to be done to, you know, feel more like a man. It was something like that. I could be wrong. But there's always like this sort of thing happening in general where people do these modifications even as being cis. So then it turns into a conversation of like, where do we draw the line of like where it becomes a little bit more unhealthy? And for me, like, I feel like I feel like I have to stay consistent on, okay, if like cis people can make these modifications, especially, I don't see why trans people should be restricted at all. Like, as long as there is like a through line process of therapy to where they understand what they're getting themselves into and why. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like gender affirming care in general, I don't really believe in restricting. Obviously, you know,
sure, yeah.
I believe in some kind of gatekeeping in that you shouldn't just, someone shows up and they're leaving with hormones like 5 minutes later, that kind of thing. Like, I don't really see that there should be any like distinction. Like, cis people can have this, but trans people can't have this. I don't really believe in like transitioning children, to be honest with you. I think that is kind of
I agree. Like when you say children, like what is like the set age that you're thinking of? Because this can be a little bit vague in terms of how people describe the issue on like you're transitioning children. Like, are you talking about like early teens, right?
Like generally under 18, and there might be the odd exception, but
I think that's pretty reasonable in terms of like setting like a certain, just like how like early teens or kids in general obviously cannot meaningfully consent to sexual activities or drinking or any other indulgence and stuff like that that can put you into precarious situations, lifelong situations. I think like there should be a process of like, if like my kid is say if I had a kid, if my kid was experiencing like some forms of gender dysphoria or, feeling like that they might be a girl or whatever, I would go through a process after I'm certain that this is like for sure what they're experiencing, go through a process of like elongated therapy to be able to like reason out that this is for sure that what they want. And then I think at a certain threshold, like the legal age where I think they can reason out on their own to make these adjustments. I think 18, possibly 19, maybe 20, something like that, to really reason out. I think that would be fine.
Yeah, I tend to go with like legal adult ages.
Yeah.
Like you can consent to consuming alcohol, you can consent to pretty much anything sexually. I think it probably should just fall in line with that in general. And maybe there's like edge cases, there's the odd case by case kind of thing.
Yeah, so I guess one thing I noted, because I found myself critiquing you a little bit more than I thought I would, because I watched your video before, and I was on your side mostly for the ICO stuff. I guess I just want to get your thoughts more on this and like hash out like the particular disagreements I have and like nuance out like my thoughts a little bit more on what I thought you were potentially wrong on or about this. I guess the idea that I got was that ICO's primarily just skinwalks President Sunday's takes, which I don't necessarily disagree with wholly. Because I think she does this with like a lot of other people. But I think part of the thing I have a grievance with a little bit, to a certain degree, I can understand after having a conversation, a debate where she's calling you like a bigot, right?
She called me a lot of things.
Yeah, it would be a little bit hostile in terms of how you would treat ICO afterwards. So I don't know. I don't particularly say I wouldn't particularly shit on you for being a little bit hostile backwards towards ICO, even in this manner. But I do think there's like this notion of like how people come to agree with supporting trans rights or human rights or marginalized folks in general, that people have different variations of how they educate themselves over time. And I think just like with President Sunday, and I like President Sunday, I watch his content. I've like talked with him. I think for the most part, like I don't have very many disagreements with him. But I think this notion that like, it almost feels a little gatekeepy at times where it feels like, you have to have this particular set of knowledge on this particular, you have to read this certain thing and this certain thing. Otherwise I feel like you're completely clueless, which I don't.
Do you think he was?
I don't know.
Making
Go
that
ahead.
criticism of Alec Gunter.
Yeah, I feel like okay.
Yeah.
If I'm like, it's like a little bit of a meaningful difference in terms of like, ICO is not like Alec Gunter necessarily, because ICO is like a shitty drama slop YouTuber, and like I think it's fine to like make fun of her for having a lack of knowledge in general. But like it almost felt like the critique was made in the sense of like that you thought that this person was more knowledgeable and presents themselves as like in the style of Alec Gunter, where Alec Gunter makes explicitly political content. And the reason President Sunday was harsher towards Alec Gunter is because he's talking about an issue in a video essay where it's intended to educate, while ICO is more so, talking out of her ass, justifiably, I understand, but is more like an idiot. It's just like no one. I don't think I don't watch ICO, but I don't think most people watch ICO with this intended idea of like educating themselves, right?
Well, sure, but I mean, she's willing to like. He's done like long things, like calling people like Chud Logic transphobic, and I guess I don't really see the point in doing that kind of thing. I think if you're gonna if you're gonna use like trans as like something to beat people over the head with, then like I think like I don't know. She knows basically nothing about the topic. I feel like she shouldn't weigh in at all, preferably.
I don't know if because I think it's like, to me, it's like saying that someone who is probably not clued in on or informed on every specific thing, and I'm not saying you're saying that every specific thing, but like a lot more on like any other marginalized group of people, that they shouldn't advocate in their interest or probably call out behavior that they feel might be like indicative towards some line of bigoted thinking, or possibly weighing in on a bigoted perspective, even if unintentionally. So while I think like her hostile manner is probably undeserved from what I can gather so far, like the Chud Logic stuff, like if you were to look at like Chud Logic making like AGP jokes, it's like for the average person in this space, like we kind of understand what the like space is like, but like generally speaking, and I don't even think Chud Logic would disagree with this. If you were to say, I think like the AGP jokes, while they can be funny, like any other joke, could be considered like some sort of line of like transphobic to some degree, right? In the way that you could like minimize or kind of talk about trans people in general in that way, can be normalized to a group of people that already kind of dehumanize trans people in even more subtler ways, or even more like explicit ways, you know? And like, I kind of know that Chud Logic space is already like that, like to a certain degree. So I think like the criticism that Aiko is making is actually pretty like fair at that point, especially if Chud Logic wants to engage in the topic and, you know, have his opinion on these topics. Should probably come with an understanding that like Aiko, you know, educated or not, is probably going to call you like a bigoted transphobe, you know?
But what's the point in calling someone like Chud Logic a bigoted transphobe?
The point is to point out the behavior that you think is like unethical and immoral to some degree, that contributes to an overall dehumanization of a group of people. Like if somebody was making like average racist jokes, like Chud Logic or any other person in the space could be making, right? Like I think it would be appropriate to probably call out that conduct of like being like inappropriate or like above the line, even if they're not like super duper well educated on every single thing to do with like Black rights, you know, Black history or anything like that, you know?
Yeah, I guess my issue is like, there's a lot of people that just want to run around calling bigots for all kinds of things. And a lot of the time I just don't see the point in doing that. And it's a bit irritating when it's like trans issues. And a lot of the time it's like people making like offensive jokes and stuff. I just think, like, is there nothing better to be talking about if you care about like trans issues than like Chud Logic? I just don't really see the point in making that criticism. And like, to say someone is transphobic isn't really saying an awful lot. You just, you know, you're calling someone a name pretty much. I think either come with some actual like criticisms where he's getting stuff like objectively wrong, or don't bother, because calling someone like that offensive, it's a bit like calling like Count Dankula offensive or something like that. It's like, well, you're probably right, but what's the point, you know?
From the clip that was provided, she was referring to the AGP comments and referring to the dismissal. I think she was talking about the overall past conduct, and she, from what I remember, it's been a while, but when she, you know, challenged Chud Logic on these things on her own stream, educated or not, she has tried to give out her thoughts on these things. So I guess what I'm saying is like, yeah, like I do agree. There should be more focused education if you actually want to like be good at being able to combat these ideas in the first place. But I do think it like there. I think that it comes with this idea of like, I was thinking to myself, would I rather have people like Aiko that are imperfect allies to some degree, a little bit like lazy at times, admittedly, or would I rather have like more Republicans? And obviously, I think I'd rather the imperfect allies at that time. I'm not a fan of Aiko, by the way, so this isn't necessarily me trying to be like super defensive of her and her character, but
I don't like either. I think that if you're running around calling people transphobic and shaming people often for jokes, that kind of makes more Republicans. You're like annoying them into like taking harder stances against that kind of thing. And for a lot of trans people, it's like, which trans people are asking her to do that?
I do agree that like this can come off as like woke scoldy and make people resentful. But am I to blame the person calling out the behavior as what it is, or should I place more responsibility on the person that is immature? It's kind of like the meme of like the person like shaving their head and being like, man, like, I really hate to do this, but you're kind of making me a skinhead Nazi. Like, I really hate to do this, but you kind of forced me into this position. It's like how much can I really like I don't even necessarily disagree. I do think like there are certain people out there that like come off as like very unreasonable at times, or a little bit too much of a like perfectionist in what they want to see in terms of like being an ally and advocacy. I mean, I was just covering like Brittany Simon or whatever and saying that Kyle Kalinske was not like a perfect ally because he called Trump a fat retard, but
see, I don't see the point in that kind of thing either. Like, I don't know, like, fuck, what was I gonna say? Oh, it's gone. Sorry, it's getting a bit late, so I'm a bit all over the place. Yeah, like I think people should be free to make jokes. People should be free to make like trans jokes and gay jokes, and like people are going to see you as transphobic potentially. Like, I think that's just going to happen. I think if you keep scolding those kinds of people,
sure. Like,
for,
I would say it varies. It would vary though on like why. It'd be like if so for example, like if President Sunday were to make any of these kind of jokes, you would kind of get an idea that President Sunday, through his like advocacy, or at least in terms of like presentation of like how he talks about any of these issues, you would generally get the feeling that like he's not actually bigoted. But then you hear it from somebody else like Chud Logic, who has expressed severe disagreements in various different ways. Then like the joke comes off as more like, well, I kind of just feel like you're contributing to an environment that further dehumanizes me and leads to further
What do you mean
harm,
by like What do you mean by like leading to further harm? I just don't see.
Well, it's like
harm
if you were talking about like open space and in terms of like how people talk on Twitter or any of these social media environments, or talk about like their political takes and whatever, like there is like a overall contribution over time that leads to certain people being placed in charge, that leads to further state violence upon marginalized folks.
Yeah, I don't place that kind of responsibility on those kind of people, to be honest.
Well, what level of responsibility do you think like the average person kind of has in terms of like conducting themselves?
Not much. People vote. That's about it, really. I think people make edgy jokes on the internet. Whether or not they're a bigot doesn't generally matter a huge amount. Like,
so you think like any level of language or facilitating yourself doesn't like contribute to an environment of like further harm?
Not often. I need to see more of a through line. I think suggesting that
like if I were to ask you if I were to ask you like how people develop like transphobia, like what do you think that comes from?
Comes from lots of places. Can be ignorance, can be trauma in some cases, can be hearing things, but that's usually like the media and stuff like that.
Yeah, but so that's what I'm talking about. Is like,
internet,
well, it's media and it's media and other people reinforcing these like stereotypes and these notions. Like anti-Semitism or racism doesn't really just stem from like, it like stems culturally, socially, and this is like what people have like a concern over is like, we are reinforcing these kind of bigoted notions that like further, contribute to harm,
Yeah, again, I'd want to see the through line. Like, I'm very big on free speech. I think in general, people should be able to say mostly whatever they want. And if it's gonna be made out that certain kinds of speech cause harm, you need like a strong case for it. And just being a ditz on the internet, calling someone a transphobe is not doing that. It's just calling someone a name. I don't see the point
So
in it, you know?
do you want like a direct correlation necessarily speaking? Is that like what you're looking for a little bit more?
I think that would help because to restrict speech, like you need a compelling case, not just, well, you can see some kind of logic where someone watches this and becomes more transphobic and then goes out and like stabs a trans person. Like, I'd need a lot more than that, I guess.
Like if you have like, say like, white school shooters or something like that, you think there's like a pattern of behavior, a level of like things that they probably watch or listen to over a period of time. It's certain pundits or certain like ideas that like socially have been reinforced throughout like society that like lead them to like committing a mass slaughter of like children or like, you know, women in general or something like that.
I mean, maybe, but like, you know, you got to think someone who is a fan of like whichever pundit and then does something like that. Like how many fans of said pundit are never going to do that?
Well,
how much can you put that on that person?
It's less so that like a direct pundit influenced you to do this act. It's more so like a level of contribution to some degree or another, you know, like a level of influence where it's like socially reinforcing like the ideas into their head and like having a contribution. Like obviously it's not like a direct like one-to-one. It's never like as simple as that, but it's more of like a systematic issue.
The other thing I would ask is, you identify someone as a transphobe and call them as such because of that. What does that actually achieve? What does that change? Like anyone who's transphobic that's watching that has like strong feelings about that, they're just going to see that as a good thing anyway, you know?
I mean, it can. It would just depend. But like, I think calling out specific behaviors and letting people know that, hey, this is like kind of behavior that is like overall contributing to harm and antisocial and unhealthy. Really, I think it's unhealthy to develop certain bigoted perspectives that overall are generally unreasonable for the most part. Like pinpointing these things and like contributing to like the education system, I would say, of like why people develop these like internal thought processes that lead to like white supremacy or like male patriarchy developing or rape culture and stuff like that. It's probably vital to some extent to be able to even come to a possibility of a solution eventually down the line, or somewhat close to a solution. I don't think there'll ever be a perfect solution, but being able to like remedy things as time progresses, you know, develop.
Would you potentially like restrict certain people's speech based on that?
It would vary. It would vary specifically on what they're like reinforcing and what kind of things that they're saying. I think like someone like Chud Logic is like, I have like literally no compulsion to be like, you shouldn't be able to make any of these jokes. So if you're asking me like what jokes would I restrict, it's like, I think I can only think of maybe one example of a joke potentially, and that would have to be like a strong advocate. It would have to be jokes that were made in strong advocation for, you know, like actual violence or whatever. And I don't think there's very many cases. There's very few like political actors, political pundits that have gotten to that level of harm, I think.
Well, like if you took that joke that you're saying maybe on and you restricted that, do you not think that would radicalize people more to restrict that than to let it happen?
It would depend. Like either way, I think you're like having like a radicalized group of people. One is more normalized and treated as like functionally as like this is okay to do, which I think is worse. I think putting somebody off into the corner and saying like, yeah, this is actually shameful behavior, I don't think we should repeat this behavior, is teaching, you know, people that like this is generally unacceptable. Like if you were like working in a Domino's or some shit like that, would you want somebody consistently being, you know, reinforcing this idea that they have like a justified right to treat you as lesser than, and like in effect basically make your workplace environment like total fucking ass? Or like obviously not. Like, or like potentially actually physically harm you or something like that. Like I don't think that would be appropriate. So I do think like certain figures probably should be ostracized or shamed enough to where like we should make it like pretty much like an embarrassing thing to even admit liking this person's content, like say Asmongold or someone like that. Yeah.
Do you think shaming works really for that purpose?
It depends. Like this is a topic I've explored a little bit, and I've had a back and forth in my mind of like what level of shame works. And honestly, I've gone back and forth of what it would vary. I think because on one hand, like conservatives can't necessarily shame a gay person into turning straight, right? Like conversion therapy doesn't really work. It's like basically just like emotional torture or something like that. That doesn't really work necessarily. But I think if you were to show that, if you were to shame somebody that was doing an antisocial, overall harmful thing, not only on the person that they're doing it to, but to themselves, like having a net negative on themselves, I think shame over a period of time with the education provided of why it's wrong, can actually help in the long run eventually.
I think that hasn't borne out at all, and I think it's made things, to be honest.
I think this is mostly because people reinforce these notions because a lot of people are a little bit more prone to ostracizing people that they refer to as a little bit more different than they should be. I think there was one thing that you said is that it's not really borne out that people that trans people would be accepted in I think it was women's restrooms or shelters or something like that. That women have this specific traumas or whatever. And I said something akin to, people not having, not even just women, but people not having enough experience on a day-to-day basis with being able to communicate with the the extreme minority, which is basically the 1% of people, which is trans people. How commonly do you think people meet trans people on a day-to-day basis in their real life? It's probably extremely rare. So it would be more prone for people to have a little bit more ignorance and bias and possibly dehumanizing thought processes on trans people because they don't actually humanize them. They don't have those experiences with them.
Yeah, I mean, when I say about it not bearing out that, more exposure has made women more accepting of trans women in spaces, I guess what I'm seeing is there's more trans people than ever. I've been trans for 10 plus years, and I was very gender non-conforming since I was a teenager. When I was, let's say 5 years ago-ish, I'd get shit in the street once in a while. And I used to make a lot more effort, and I used to pass a lot better. I don't really care that much anymore.
Sure, yeah.
And I used to get shit from people sometimes. People would identify that I'm male, I'm dressing a certain way, and call me a pedophile from a van window or whatever shit. I make far less effort now, and I see a lot more trans people about, and no one says anything anymore. So in some ways, you just see more of them, and it's more normal. But I think what we've also done, we've kind of, there's less of an impetus to actually pass as the other sex. And so more and more masculine looking so-called trans women are showing up in women's spaces, and women are more and more speaking out against it now. Things have changed in my country, and some of that has been over things people who very much just resemble males accessing female spaces and making them uncomfortable.
Sure, I would understand where the impetus is to be uncomfortable with that if there is a impetus of males being unfortunately man has a propensity, that's the actual word I'm looking for, to commit SA or something like that. There is a emotional, understandable internal feeling of this is what I'm adjusted to, especially if there's a trans person in here that gives me all the indicators that I see in the archetypical male and stuff like that. But I guess what I'm saying is that one of my responses to that argument in general usually that I hear is that, no matter what, in those kind of situations, although I have a certain level of empathy with why people would come to those feelings and have some of those fears and reservations, is generally speaking is it reasonable to be oh, I don't want trans women in my bathroom because I'm fearful that they're going to predate on me, because men tend to predate, and I my brain is wired to already adjust that males like that are transitioning even into trans women would probably like essay me or something like that. When it's like, it's a bathroom setting, people are relieving themselves. I don't think you have to think that much deeper. And if people were going to do something like horrible and atrocious like that, a man would not be restricted by just like pretending to cosplay as a woman to make you feel safe or whatever. They would just go in there and do it. Like any rapist would just go and do that behavior because they're deplorable, disgusting rapists, you know?
Depends,
I don't know.
It depends on like the source of the discomfort. But if it's like to do with trauma or something, then you're kind of rationalizing something that is, I don't want to say irrational, but you know, something like very fucked up that you can't really rationalize your way out of.
Sure,
And,
like
if you see,
but that's
if you
part
see
of
a male
that's part of
person-
the internalized bigotry or whatever, where like so
I don't
people
really
can
believe
have
in that kind of stuff
somewhat of an irrational, some of it a rational actual fear at a certain point of like black people or whatever. But is it rational to say, because I've had this specific experience with a black person, would it be rational that every time I see a black person, I'm going to be like super hyper defensive and fearful of every black person?
My point
Probably
is
not.
that it's not about whether it's rational. If you have trauma, you have the response that you have, you know, and that's
yeah,
not
but
gonna be
like
shamed out of
at the
people,
expense,
you
and I'm not
can't
saying
do
you're
that.
making this argument, but at the expense of like restricting people from their human rights to basically relieve themselves in a public bathroom is a little ridiculous, is what I would say. And basically,
That's not bearing out, because trans people can't be banned from all bathrooms.
well, they are, because if you're transitioning and you go into one restroom and you're not allowed in there because you transition and you don't pass enough, then you know you go to the another restroom, and then that's not going to bear out a really nice and pleasant experience, given everyone's propensity to be a little bit more transphobic. It's going to be very uncomfortable, awkward experience no matter what at that point. Because if you're restricted from one bathroom because you're trans, you can't necessarily go to the other bathroom after you like transition
We're
without
not talking about rights at that
experiencing
point. You still have the
completely
right to use that
uncomfortable,
men's bathroom.
experiences, I would say.
How often do you think that trans women are like assaulted in male bathrooms? Do you think it's a common thing?
I mean, like, I don't have stats to back this up, but like,
It's not
just
common,
like
either
it
way.
would be like, is it rational to think that a trans woman would assault women in the bathroom? It's probably not. Like, but like, I would kind of understand why trans women would feel. First of all, it'd be invalidating of their identity. That's a level of psychological harm. And then
Does anyone have the right
men
for their
tend
gender
to be
identity or
pretty
identity not to be
transphobic,
validated?
so it's not impossible that you go into
I don't think that's true
a
either.
restroom and then you'll probably have a man be like, why the fuck are you in here? Possibly get physically violent. It all varies. It depends on what state you live in. It depends on the experience.
There's an awful lot of stuff being added in here. Like, when it comes to rights, like, really all you can be given is the right to go somewhere. When it comes to like discomfort and stuff, people have discomfort for all kinds of reasons. Like, at a certain point, we're prioritizing a trans woman's potential discomfort in the men's over a woman's potential discomfort of men coming into that space.
Yeah, I am.
And bear in
prioritizing
mind,
that. Yeah.
you're not seeing someone's identity. You're just seeing a man or a woman. So if you don't pass, then you're going to make women uncomfortable.
Okay, I don't care.
And you're saying that matters.
I don't care, because
less than
it
trans
should be
woman's.
a gender abolitionist perspective anyway, that, bearing out, you're using a restroom facility. The common thing that should be associated in your mind is that this person is very likely, it's a public restroom. They're not going to harm you. They would
Well,
have to
that
be a
goes both
deranged freak to do that.
That goes all ways. You could say the same to trans women about using men's bathrooms, especially if they don't pass.
Sure. But then
And
you're
there's
just
no
basically
right thing here.
making the argument then what, because you're kind of like, you're kind of saying it's justified in this case, but then it's not justified in my case. But I'm saying like, yeah, that's kind of the point that I'm making, is that there is a reasonable fear that a trans woman might go in and men might do something to them.
Why is that reasonable?
Right?
Why is that
Statistically, it's probably more probable. But generally speaking, it's a public bathroom. What I'm saying is that it's not likely to happen in either case. So why not?
Yeah,
why
you
not
could
the
use
other
the same
case?
argument then. So statistically,
So basically, like
let's
with
say
the
see-
argument
hang on,
you're presenting,
hang on.
though,
No,
is
wait,
basically
wait,
at the
wait,
expense of
wait a sec,
trans
wait a
people.
sec.
That's what I'm saying.
Please.
It's saying
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I
fuck you, you
understand.
don't deserve human rights.
I think this both ways. Statistically, it's unlikely to happen either way. Statistically, that trans woman who you might just see as a man because you don't know someone's identity usually is still more likely to assault a woman, even if either way it's not likely to happen anyway. So it goes both ways.
Okay. I feel like you don't understand what I'm saying.
Maybe not.
Maybe. Yeah. I have to go eat soon anyway. Otherwise, I'd continue this on. But yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you
I don't think there's like this like perfect solution all the time where everyone's going to feel like comfortable 24/7. Like there's a lot of progress that needs to be made. But generally, think it's probably a little bit more important to prioritize human rights, and people want to use the bathroom that they made a lot of progress in being able to utilize. As long as they're not raping anyone, I don't care. Is what I'm saying.
Well, you're a man,
Well, yeah.
So you're telling women how to feel.
Yeah, I am, because women should be reasonable. Men should be reasonable. You should go to a public restroom knowing that
is it unreasonable?
It's a public place, unless you have a deranged freak that is trying to rape you. That won't really be stopped by just presentation wise. They'll just go in there anyway. I think it's pretty reasonable that.
Is it unreasonable
to have the human right of being to use the facility?
I have one piece of advice. Conciseness is key. I swear to God. What I'm trying to say is it unreasonable for a woman to get uncomfortable and cross the street because there's a man behind them, even though that man's actually a trans woman, but they see a man?
Is it unreasonable?
Yeah.
If they actually think it's a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like that would be the perception of like, I think that initially is a man. There isn't like this thought process of like, I'm transphobic.
Can you see why women might not want to share an enclosed space with that same kind of person?
Yeah, but like you go into, it's a public restroom. Somebody goes into a public restroom. Like it's pretty reasonable that somebody would go into a public restroom, and then maybe the first indication is like, oh, why is this person in here? And then you take a second glance, and then you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. They're just leaving
some
themselves.
trans women you just don't.
Like it would be meaningfully different if somebody's like walking up behind you or something. Like that's a little bit of a different context. And even in that situation, once you come to the realization, it's like, oh, that's like a trans woman. I was like, okay.
Well, no, you don't always. That's the point. You don't always see a trans woman and realize.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like,
you just see a man.
Because of this experience that you're talking about, this doesn't mean like you should restrict people from public access to restrooms.
I don't necessarily like advocate for that. I think
okay,
that
good.
if you look like a man, you should use the man.
I wasn't certain if you were or not. I was just making an argument.
There's no laws about this
making sure we're on the same page here.
Yeah, there's no laws about this in the UK.
Like I don't even necessarily fully disagree with the ability to empathize with people being uncomfortable in those situations. Oh, yeah.
Of course I do. It's just discomfort is kind of part of life to an extent.
Sure, yeah.
And it's how do you prioritize your discomfort over another group's, when you're part of the group that is statistically more likely to hurt the other group, even if it's unlikely to happen in a women's like restroom or something. And I think that too many progressive types just completely forego how a lot of these women feel and lack empathy on this issue.
Yeah, but like that's usually because how they feel is weaponized
right?
against their rights. That's why.
Yeah. Well, you're pushing a lot of these women.
That's why, and that's why people are hostile to it, because it's being weaponized. That's the reason.
Well, I guess weaponized.
Like there's not like this indication. Like I don't personally get this indication of like if somebody's like making that like general assessment of like I might feel uncomfortable about this sometimes. Like it'd be like, okay, that's kind of reasonable. But if I hear them making an advocation of like, well, so therefore they don't deserve the human rights to be able to use the restroom.
No one's saying
it's
that.
like, okay, that's a little unhinged.
There's always a restroom to go to. No one's saying anything about human rights at this point.
Why not that restroom?
Well, if they might make women uncomfortable, they should use the men's, I think. It depends how they look. If you pass well enough, it's probably fine, because no one's going to care.
Why does it matter in terms of passing?
Because you're going to make women uncomfortable, because they're going to see a man. And then
but like it's a public restroom. I'm kind of like one of those people who's like, I don't really care. Like you should make more public like restrooms where it's not defined by sex. I think that's kind of like a silly notion
that
that like
culturally the
separates a
US
little
is
bit
headed in
more
that
of like
direction?
our like experiences as humans?
Do you think that do you think culturally the US is headed in that direction? That more people just want gender neutral everything?
We're kind of regressive at this stage, but so I don't know that for sure.
So it's probably not going to work if the culture isn't.
Well,
moving
it's
in
not
that
about
direction.
what it's not about what realistically is going to work. It's about what I would like. Like I'm just arguing for like what I would like to see pan out over time with advocacy.
Yeah, but what if that drives a lot of women rightwards because they don't like that and they want, you know, something that you'd see as regressive? What if that drives women
That's
rightwards?
on them. If
Yeah, but
I'm
they're
shaving
voting
my
against you
fucking
now.
a bald head. I become like a fucking neo-Nazi. You know, try to like an entire like group of people like that. That's on them. That's the unreasonable part, right? That's the bigoted part.
I think you're deciding for people what's reasonable and unreasonable, and that doesn't work.
Well, everyone decides what's reasonable. We all make arguments what's reasonable and what's unreasonable. It's kind of why like these conversations take place in the first place.
Sure, but like I don't know. You start talking. You start speaking for women. Like
it's not about speaking for women. It's about speaking for like groups of like everyone really.
It does matter
because like this does affect men too in terms of like okay, then you're talking about men should have trans women go in there, and then you're talking about well they're already uncomfortable, right? So either way,
do you know what?
Either way, one group of people is uncomfortable. No.
Do you know what I think the best way is? Honestly, like ultimately the long-term goal should be to normalize like gender nonconformity.
I agree.
Like men aren't
gender
always
abolition is actually kind of based. I actually agree with this.
To an extent, I think gender is inevitable, but to an extent, like men should be more accepting of more feminine-looking male people.
I agree. If you haven't watched Mr. Girl, by the way, I think you probably agree with him on this stuff. I think he has a lot of takes
bits and pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I hate to cut it short. I'm not trying to evade, but I've been like delaying going to eat and taking a rest.
That's okay. You can send me a message if you want. If you want to.
Yeah. If you want to have like a more any topic really, yeah, you're free to message me. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, have a good one.
Later.
Listen.
okay. I probably should have just ended stream there. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm about to get off anyway. Fuck. Kind of feel like a dick now. Who's all here? Who's still here? Any questions? Anyone want to come in VC really quick? Do a very small chat. I suppose I can give my thoughts on how that went. I think it went okay. I got a tiny bit of passive aggressive, a little aggressive. I think I've come to a clearer understanding, a little bit more of a clearer understanding on this person's perspective of these issues. And honestly, like, it was pretty much like what I thought to a degree, where it's like kind of a more centrist-y kind of positioning on the issues. Buzzball. What you know? It's a complicated topic. I can see how somebody could be a centrist on this, even a trans person, of course. They're individual. I do feel like it's a little bit. I'm trying to say this in a very gentle way, instead of like a really mean way. I do think there is like a naive approach of like, you know, people's words or people's behavior and conduct can't influence or isn't part of it, isn't influencing in even smaller ways, bigger or smaller ways, a reinforcement of a certain, you know, bigotry. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a little naive. That position, I haven't heard that position in a while. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a while since I've heard that kind of position, where it's like, there's no accountability or responsibility to how you facilitate your language at all. But it was like, also, it felt like a contradiction when she was basically saying, like, I think the media influences people's perceptions and can veer into these ways of thinking. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of the point, is society reinforces, we all kind of reinforce as a society these ways of thinking. This is kind of the point that I'm making. Like, it can be in smaller ways, like the individual experience may not feel like super duper impactful, but it's a systematic issue, just like white supremacy or any of these other systematic issues. You know, it reinforces these biases, these preconceived notions, these stereotypes, these things that transform over time into like real like dehumanization of like Jewish people, you know, trans people, black people, women. Very strange. I thought that was a very strange argument. And like, yeah, there's jokes, there's edgy jokes, but then there's also like whatever, like some of these people's like real positions, and how commonly do they make these jokes? How commonly are they like, you know, reaching to the bottom of the barrel? You know, there was kind of also a reason like why Dave Chappelle was like pretending to be like surprised that like, you know, Republicans were like on board for all of his, you know, trans jokes, all of his like propaganda about like, you know, trans people and stuff like that through his jokes. Why they took those positions with him, and he's just trying to, you know, not take accountability and responsibility for like his participation in that. So very strange take, very, very naive, I think. And then the bathroom thing where it's like, it turns into this like, it turns into a conversation about prioritizing comfortability with different like groups of people at this. So it turns into a back and forth of like, statistically, like how commonly is this group of people going to be like impacted by like this, you know, trans woman getting into this bathroom, or, you know, how often, like, is it justified that trans women are, you know, going to be uncomfortable by being in the men's restroom, right? It's like, or are you saying a lot of men are rapists, a lot of males are rapists, and treat like trans people like shit. It's like, yeah, I kind of am. So yeah, like in some sort of way, either way, you're talking about like one group of people in one way, shape, or form being uncomfortable. And this is why, like, I think like the overall solution that I think should happen is normalizing that, like, while there are meaningful differences that are there in gender expression and sex presentation, all that stuff, you know, that setting up like a gender abolitionist kind of, you know, society where, you know, it should probably be, you know, have a lot more shared bathrooms or something like that, where this doesn't become like this, like, kind of immediate discomfort as soon as a man enters the same restroom as a woman, or a woman that you know, man's restroom, you know, should probably be prioritized there. And whether or not Mary Chu's being honest in terms of like, well, I'm just talking about like how people feel, and it's like, okay, if you're not actually on board for like the overall like stripping of like the human rights of being able to use the restroom that they would like to, you know, then I don't have like a huge grievance with you. But, you know, you do have to understand, if like you're having these conversations, that there are going to be people like Aiko and even me, like, where like I might be a little bit on pause, where I'm like, I'm not sure what your position on this, so clarity is kind of important, you know. Again, it's about what you choose to focus in on, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like important to get a sense of like your positions, like your takes on all of this stuff. She did tell me that I need to condense the way I speak. I don't disagree with this. I don't think I acknowledged that, but I did. I don't think I acknowledged that while I was chatting. But that is true. I probably should condense some things. I'm well aware. I'd be long-winded. Sometimes I'd be long-winded, but you know, it is what it is. We'll figure it out. We'll move along. We'll figure it out. I think part of what makes it hard to like not be a little bit long-winded sometimes is that when you're streaming, you kind of want to make sure you get all of your thoughts fully fleshed out as much as humanly possible. And you want to make sure somebody understands what you're saying, and that the audience understands as well, and that it can't be misinterpreted. So, you know, I'm already long-winded as it is in a real life scenario sometimes, you know. So then when you're like streaming, like you have to keep that in mind, and it probably doesn't help sometimes. You have that in your mind sometimes where you're like, oh, I gotta really make sure my point is like emphasized here. I really gotta make sure this isn't like misinterpreted. Bit frustrating sometimes. It's okay though. We'll live, guys. I consider joining in as a content bridge while you eat, but things have clearly changed. Yeah, I wasn't gonna have... Yeah, this was never gonna be like that long of a stream. I'm gonna be real. I wish I could have, but I gotta work like literally in 30 minutes. How long did we go for today? 3 hours? Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We'll be okay. You wanna play a game before we leave? Yeah, fuck it. We'll play a game. Buzzball, we love buzzballs. Everybody is buzzing for buzzballs. I still have plenty of stuff to go over. Next stream. I still didn't do part 2 of that Lonerbox Gaza article. You still need to do that. Oh man. Okay. I want to raise the volume. Let's do 7. 11? 7-11. 7-11.
To what end? To what end?
To ground. Battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2.
The hunt is on.
Stop talking to yourself, Wade. They'll think you're crazy.
Who is it?
Crazier.
On days like this, curse exercise.
Looks like we
This place and the master leader must be protected.
Crazy
As good as new.
Jeez, man.
That was too easy.
There we go. That's working. That's working. Okay, we got somebody on there.
Welcome to the Dark Force dimension.
Welcome to the dark. Oh, come on.
For sure. How do you think my best girl earned the name Tippy Toe?
Yep,
A brief taste of hell.
Is there a... Yeah, there is.
Coming through. Love that healing feeling.
My friends are here!
Not gonna kill me, buddy. Not yet.
Back in the game.
So cold.
Yeah,
I appreciate
I'll be
you.
ship-shape in no time.
good shit. There you go. Let's go.
Shongwes Shigon. Look up behind you.
No, no, no!
Us against the world.
Very unfortunate.
That was nothing for a god.
The more the merrier.
Guess the Hawk still got it, Cap.
Oh yeah, baby, that's the good stuff.
He's cooked. Should I steal Squirrel Girl's ult? Should I steal support ult? I don't want to steal support.
I am ready to put on a
That's
show.
boring. That's boring. Doing my job as support? It's boring. I'll do it.
As good as new.
This guy did it. I don't have a reason to. I said fuck it.
Ooh, a touch of healing.
Snack time over. Gotta pick up. Oh
yeah, he's good.
That's the good stuff.
The thing's not that scary in this game. I don't know why people like... I very few circumstances where I come across a actually good player playing the thing. It's like too easy to focus on. Oh, I almost got cooked there. That's crazy.
Thanks.
Hell yeah.
Clear the way.
Here, maybe.
We're off to see the Master Weaver. Psionic first.
Psionic magic.
It's distracting.
Still got an age.
I got him.
As good as new.
Let's go. Cooked. Cooked. Almost there. Almost there. Cooked. Cooked. Let's go. Let's go. Dude. That's so good. Man, very unfortunate for them, man. Very unfortunate. $5v6 lame. Okay, good cope. Oh wait, that person actually did leave. Oh, jeez. They did awful. Okay, they're not coping. That's just true. Emery defending Ico? No. 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 Well, kinda. Just one where I actually legitimately think, like, you know, maybe this is an unreasonable criticism. Maybe, you know, maybe he's off a little bit on this part. Okay. Shout out Kathy. Shout out Webmaster 4531. Shout outs Parker. Let's see. I know it was tense today, but thank you for being here. Bad Horse, welcome. Thanks for being here. Zoo Phillips, thanks for being here. El Talos, thanks for being here. Did I miss anyone? Oh, doesn't seem like it. No, doesn't seem like it. All right. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Well, likely stream today. Or, no, not.